Detroitlions will rise.
All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Obviously, everything's going to be a little bit off today, starting way late. No sleep, getting back home about 2:30 in the morning. But, man, did we have I had a fun day yesterday watching Combine, meeting a few of the players' family members, and great conversations to be had. Bunch of wonderful athletes yesterday to watch. It was a good time to really sit back and reflect on just how good our football team really is. And that was the talk of the town. I mean, honestly, yesterday there was a lot of parents that I spoke to throughout the day that very, very high on the Detroit Lions, and Dan Campbell being the largest reason why. So we're going to talk about day one recap. Let me get Eric in here, and while he's going through some things, I'm going to keep building in the background so I have some more things to talk about. Good morning, Eric. How are you, buddy?
Good morning. Fantastic. Going to be a great day today. Get to
It
watch.
certainly is. My eyes are just, man, they are
Get
tanked.
to watch 4 or 5 more hours of combine stuff today.
Yeah, I'm
Really
excited.
looking
I wish I
forward.
could be there, but I've got doctor appointments today, MRIs and crap that I got to get done. So,
You know, I wanted to be there for it all this year. I wanted to stay down for all 4 days, but I just couldn't make it happen. 9.5-hour drive for me. So that's kind of what stopped me this year.
well, dude, you just went on an epic tour for this last season. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's you put a lot of miles in this last season. So, yesterday, what was your overall takeaway from this year's combine? I mean, I know you couldn't be there in person, but watching it on TV is a different perspective. You obviously get to listen to, Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah and some of the takeaways that they have. And, like I didn't have the benefit of listening to all of the player, interviews when they came up soloed. And those are the things that I'm going to dig into today, because I think that stuff is so important to hear what they say. But what was your overall take on this class, after you watched it yesterday at home?
Well, I liked it. There was at least 1 or 2 players from each group that really stood out to my eyeball test, and that's what I go with. And, started warming me up to who everyone is. I got to meet all these brand new players, 100 players yesterday at least. And it was very fun to see and refreshing. It's a complete learning experience. And what I try to do is when I'm at home and listening to Rich Eisen, I try not to let his enthusiasm for one certain team take over, because he loves to splurge praise on the Michigan guys.
Oh yeah.
But I try not to just look at the players that he loves, right? Because he gives some of them some extra time. And I try to be like you,
impartial as possible.
I try to be just as level as I can and just watch it for myself and see what my eyeballs see. And sometimes it matches up to what Rich says, but sometimes it doesn't. And I found a few players yesterday that I'm starting to like. So I probably have 3 or 4 that would be on my board for the Lions in the first or second round.
Nice. So obviously I got spoiled yesterday sitting with who has been my favorite edge in this class, or one of anyway, and that was Nick Scorton's family. So big shout out to Nikki and your wife and his brother Nate. So I got to sit with them yesterday, and big shout out to Maureen too. Maureen, sorry, I had terrible saying that together. Maureen came down to the combine yesterday and sat with us too, and great conversations, great family. And I'm not going to give away like all the goodies, or at the end of the day, I'm not going to say certain things to put somebody in jeopardy. Like I would never do that. But I will tell you this: they are thoroughly impressed with Dan Campbell, and you could see, I mean, the eyes light up in this family when you start talking about the Detroit Lions. And I can't say that I have ever experienced that before when speaking to a family. So to give you a little context, Nick Sr. is he's a Cowboy fan, been a Cowboy his whole life. And, eyes just lighten up. I mean, of course they want their son to go to the best, possible situation, drafted as high as possible. But man, did I learn some cool stuff yesterday about three individuals, really, and two of them obviously that play together, Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton, and just listening to the difference of NIL. And they made a comment that I never really thought about it, but I mean, you know as well as I do, Eric, that years ago when there was players getting paid in the NFL,
Yeah.
in college, and it was a big no, right? You weren't supposed to get paid. That was ruining kids.
Reggie Bush.
I mean, Johnny, right? Manziel was another one. And, you know, this type of, I guess this big of a change now over the last, 5 years or so that it's been now. I don't know even how long it's been. I would have expected that, you know, money would still do that, that it would still change people. And it always has done that. I mean, there's a long history with the way that money has changed people over time, changed who they are. They don't stick to the roots. And if whether you come from something or you don't. And the one thing that I learned yesterday is that with the NIL dollars that these kids are getting has not changed these kids one bit. Like Nick, Shamar, and there's another individual. I wrote the name down, but I can't remember the name right now. They play ball, man. They love ball. That's all they want to do is play football and be there for their team, support their team. Good kids, you know, they go and play their game. They work out, they do their drills, they go to practice, they go to school, and that's it. Like, they're not living well beyond their means, you know, they're not doing all this extracurricular crazy stuff. Those are the types of guys that will fit into the Dan Campbell and the Brad Holmes type of culture. So when you sit back and you listen to these things coming from the parents, yeah, maybe the parents are a little bit biased because that's their son, but I didn't get that feeling one bit. These are the types of conversations that I would love to be able to have with all the different parents. And I did invite him to come on the podcast. Hopefully we'll be able to make that happen. Gave him some information and we'll see if we can't make it happen. But what a good family, man. Great family dynamic. I was thoroughly impressed with Nick. I mean, I was kind of biased sitting with him, but tell him, I mean, the truth. Like, look, this guy your son is like the best edge setter I've seen in a long time. And I even told him, I compared him to Josh Paschal coming out of Kentucky. He was familiar with the name, not familiar with the tape. I said, you got to go watch the tape. I mean, it just reminds me of your son. So Nick also dropped weight for the combine. So he was playing at like 265, 270 at Texas A&M. And he was down to about 254, I think it was, 255, somewhere in that range yesterday. So obviously playing a little bit faster, a little bit lighter, a little bit leaner. And he can play anywhere. So one thing that his dad said that stuck out to me is whatever the coach wants him to do, he can do and he will do. He's not someone that has to fit into this category. He has to stay at this position. Just great all-around dude. So I'm excited to see where Nick goes. Obviously, I would love to see him in Detroit. I just don't know if that's going to happen. Kind of sucked watching his shoes keep falling off. That kind of hindered some of his scores. But you know what? This is just interview number 1. And there's more to come. So I think sky's the limit for this guy and Shamar Stewart. And I learned some things about Shamar Stewart, too, that he's just like one click away from letting everything just explode. And I guess the analogy that I kind of gave the individuals I was speaking with is, you know, maybe he's a little bit raw right now, but he's got all the physical traits, tested incredibly. Maybe he's a year 2 guy that, you know, puts it all together, but by year 3, watch out. He could be one of the best in the league. So don't think that a guy like Shamar Stewart that maybe not be highly rated by other mock drafts, not have an opportunity to become a Detroit Lion or a game changer. I absolutely believe that he has an extremely high ceiling. I think the floor is a little bit higher for Nick. Ceiling is still high. And I think Shamar is just kind of right in that middle, but he can really rise up. So that's my takeaway on Shamar and Nick, but we'll dig into it. Why don't you go ahead and lead us off with whatever you want to talk about while I continue to build the
Sure.
the
First
numbers
off,
here.
anybody that watched the combine yesterday, I've never seen so many shoes fall off, and I've never seen so many players fall on the ground.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. So I don't know if they're not giving them the right shoes to wear or what's going on.
So as far as shoes go, obviously I learned this from sitting with the Scortons that every shoe company sends in shoes, Adidas, Nike, Reebok, whatever. Did I hear right yesterday that New Era sponsored the combine gear?
Yeah,
So I was chuckling to myself. I didn't say this out loud, but I was like, I hope they didn't sponsor the shoes. Because I mean that I've never seen a New Era shoe, but anyway.
they're like the dad shoes.
Yeah, I
the
guess. I don't
Velcro.
know. But so anyway, they get their choice, right? Nick had a Adidas on. I can't imagine why they kept falling off, but that just wasn't good. But that turf, I think it's the turf, man. And it might be where they had them positioned, because I could have sworn, yesterday they were more midfield and, 50 to 30-ish. They were doing a lot of the drills, in that area. Last year, it seemed like they were more 40 to 20 on the side, where the fans can sit and kind of right lateral with media. Maybe it's the field. Maybe the field's just a little slick. Maybe there's a little bit of moisture on it or something, because that's what it looked like, because everybody was falling. Everybody was losing shoes. And that's not good. But it's just day one, right? It's just your first interview. Yesterday was more about the actual interview. It's the testing is great, but they can do that anytime they want, wherever they want. They can test. You can't compete against everybody. So yesterday, if you're a competitor, which all these guys are, you're there to compete. But more importantly, it's sitting down with Dan and Brad and the other 31 GMs and coaches and having a conversation about who you are. And that's where I'm confident that some of these guys separated themselves. So if you have a list or whatever you want to talk about next, go for it. I'm going to keep plugging some numbers in so I can hopefully get some data to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little off topic for a couple of minutes. I'm
Sure.
going to go to some Detroit Lions news. Last night, it broke that the Lions informed Jalen Reeves-Maybin they plan to release him on or before the start of the 2025 league year on March 12th. Jalen Reeves-Maybin was scheduled to count $4.75 million against the cap next season and was due a $500,000 roster bonus. So this is going to save the Lions a little bit of money, about $4.75 million against the cap this year. Jalen Reeves-Maybin was a second-team All-Pro last year and a Pro Bowler as a special teamer. And this year he was marred by a neck injury, and I would believe that would have a lot to do with it. Why he's not coming back is
He did get back in, though.
He did get back in, but I don't think he was 100%. And the Lions are probably looking to move forward with younger and fresher people.
Yeah, so this lines right up with what I said last season, that I was a bit shocked that Germ got a contract extension of the size that he did for what he has been. I did not even expect him to really make the roster last year. I mean, he had a decent season, but look, the Lions need to go after ballers, right? Not just special teamers. And I understand that, all three phases matter. I understand that you need glue guys. I understand that you need leaders on your team. There's nothing wrong with Jalen Reeves-Maybin as a human. There's nothing wrong with him as a leader. I just feel like this is the year where, and again, yesterday I put out on Twitter that don't be surprised if linebacker is number one. I was having some conversations, talking to some people on my way down, and listening to a few things that were steering me into the direction that linebacker is probably one of the most sought after positions for the Lions this season, whether it's free agency or the draft or a little bit of both. So I put that out, and I don't know, 3-4 hours later, that's when we hear that Germ is going to be released. I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. I think that this is a move, one, to get better at a position, get younger at a position, but we need guys that can play a certain style of football, and I do believe, this is not a shock, I feel that linebacker was our weakest link depth-wise last season, as well as on-field play. I like Rodriguez. I like Anzalone. Anzalone's almost timed out. I mean, his contract's almost up. Jack Campbell is the future, but now it's time for us to add another Campbell like Jihad Campbell or Jelon Walker, which I'm more prone to Walker than I am Jihad Campbell. I like them both, but I think that it's time for the Lions to add another linebacker that's an outside linebacker that has the ability to press the edge, that has the ability to get after the quarterback, And I think that's what you're going to see with some of these hybrid roles that are available in this year's draft. This is such a deep draft for the defensive line. Do you remember when I said that about 6 weeks ago, how deep this draft was going to be? And everyone's like, no. This isn't going to be a deep draft for the defensive line. It's weak. Why was I one of the only ones saying that it was going to be deep? And now everyone's running to say how deep it is. 36 defensive tackles, I believe, in this draft. 36 that all probably have a top 3-round grade so far. This is a very deep draft. So you mix that with the linebacker room, you mix that with the edge room. In my opinion, that there's some ballers in this group. I think the Lions are probably going to be heavy on defense in this draft. But then I put out tight end. Do not be surprised if the Lions grab another tight end. You know, the Shane Zielstras, they've been great. They've been serviceable, but I don't think that they come back this year unless it's just a camp body. I think that we're looking to double the trouble, if you will, with a Sam Laporta and add somebody else on this offensive line that can block as well as catch, kind of like your Brock Wright, but maybe someone that's a little bit more in between a Brock Wright and a Sam Laporta. How do we even know if Brock Wright's going to make the roster this year? You know, they handed out a big roster, a big contract that doesn't have a ton of guaranteed money. Maybe there's a possibility that Brock Wright's going to get moved off of. We just don't know yet. But anyway, not to steal the thunder here. Why don't you keep on going? I'll keep on typing.
All right. So in the chat, I want you guys to tell me, is there anyone else on the Lions, just like Will said, maybe Brock Wright, somebody like that? Who else do you think may be a cap casualty for the Detroit Lions on the first day of the league year on March 12th? Is there anyone else that you guys think in the chat that will be cut? Now, one of the reasons that Jalen Reeves-Maben was let go was because he was mainly a special teamer. And that's what he made the Pro Bowl and an All-Pro for in 2023. Well, in 2024, the NFL changed the kickoff. We went to this new dynamic kickoff, which is much different than the kickoff we had in 2023. So we don't necessarily need this special teams ace for the new dynamic kickoff rule. It's seeing way less explosive plays, and this year they might change it some more. I had a thing where I was going to talk about one of the new things with the kickoff. They're talking about making a touchback be from the 35 instead of from the 30. And they're also talking about moving the kicker back 5 more yards to make for more kickoff returns. They want more returns where the defenders aren't running from 40 yards away to hit the kick returner. So now they're going to be closer with this new dynamic kickoff. So that's partly why I think that they decided to let Jalen Reeves-Maben go, because his linebacker skills just aren't up to par, but his special teams were, and we just don't need the special teams anymore. Okay, so now
I still think we need the special teams. It's just, and I understand what you're saying with the kickoff part of it.
Yeah,
but I think what the bigger thing is here is we need guys that can play at a higher level. And you know, you bring in guys in. Let me back up. You know, the Lions through 4 years, they're still building.
Yes.
Right. And so when you have these guys on the roster that are deep, they're part of your depth, part of the roster, you know, part of the 69, there is a reason for it. And I think that, you know, one of my main comments for this season or main transitions for this team this season is I think that they're finally going to turn that corner a little bit and start adding some higher caliber playmakers, you know, bringing up the level of dollar just a little bit, but not drastic, right? Not these 20, 25, $30 million guys, but you might see a rash of $6, $8, $10 million guys that we bring in free agency that raises the bar. So I think that Germ was just part of that. Great football player, great leader, great for special teams, like you said. But now we need more than special teams, because everybody can play special teams. You may not be an ace, but everyone can play special teams. And we do have some dogs on this team that, like Vaki, who's been mentioned. I think you mentioned Vaki too. He can definitely fill in.
Yeah, Vaki is one of the reasons that we're going to be letting Reeves-Maben go.
Makes sense to me. Perfect sense.
Yeah. All right, so I have another Detroit Lions related topic that I wanted to talk about today. Now, this is pretty controversial, and it's going to get some people upset, and it's going to get some people like me happy. All right, the Detroit Lions revoke season tickets. Lions season ticket holders who decided to sell their tickets to too many games in 2024 were met with a harsh reality this week. Their season tickets were revoked by the Detroit Lions. So to me, that's all the people that were selling their tickets for $4,000 to these games on Monday night against the Bills or against the Vikings at the end of the year or the playoff game. They were getting 3, 4, 5 times the face value and more, 10 times the face value for these tickets. And the Lions have had enough. So I'm going to read a little story from Detroit WXYZ. Some Lions season ticket holders aren't too pleased with the Lions organization. They received an email saying their 2025 ticket membership had been revoked. Powell Jan is one of those ticket holders. He told me he has been a Lions season ticket holder for over 23 years, but now he said he's rethinking his dedication to the team.
Who was this?
Powell?
Yeah, he's not like small time.
No, Powell isn't alone. He and Tony Stevenson both told me they sold more tickets than allowed, and they both received an email from the Lions organization saying our internal review of your account activity indicates a level of resale and or transfer activity inconsistent with personal use of your Detroit Lions game day tickets. And we have made the decision not to renew your season ticket membership for the 2025 season. Both of the men told me that they live out of state, but they maintain their season ticket membership in order to enjoy the tickets when they have the opportunity to make it back to town. They also gift tickets to friends and family who are local. I thought the message was a bit curt and thought maybe based on my tenure, they might take a look at my case and say, well, he really bombed out 24, but we'll give him another season, said Tony. I reached out to the Lions organization for comment, but they have not yet responded. Well, here's the thing. The Lions clearly tell you when you are a season ticket holder that you may not sell more than a couple of games, because if you do, they will revoke your season tickets. And I've seen it where they've revoked them during the season because they are trying to stop these resellers that buy 8, 10, 15 season tickets, and then they just sell all the tickets resale on the secondary market. And some of these people have had them since the Lions were bad, and they've been banking on the Lions getting better and being able to flip these tickets. And they've done it for a long time, and now they're putting an end to it. Now, I realize as a Lions fan, and a lot of season ticket holders don't have front row seats. But every now and then, there's a game they'd like to sell their tickets and move up to the front and go to a closer seat. Now, that happens every now and then. And then I get that you can't always go to every single game. There's some people that can't go to Thanksgiving because it's a holiday, and that's a high paying game. So a lot of people sell their Thanksgiving Day game. But what happened this year was there was so many high price games and so many nationally televised games that commanded a very high price on the secondary market that people were just selling them willy-nilly just to make up for the season ticket increase for next year. So the last couple of games of the year and the playoff game, I know many season ticket holders sold the Vikings game and or the playoff game to pay for their tickets for this year. By selling just one or two games, they were able to make enough money to pay for their entire season tickets this year. And I get it. I know a lot of them did it, but I think that's what got a lot of them in trouble. And for someone like me who's on the wait list, that means there's more tickets going to be available here in about a week or so for people like me. Now, I've already secured mine. I'm getting a transfer. I'm going to be in section 136, row 9. I'm going to be right down there in the lower bowl. I don't have to wait because I'm getting a transfer from one of my friends. He's transferring 2 tickets to me, but I'll have to wait till April 1st for that. And
Yeah, so let me jump in here. So
Yeah,
one,
go ahead.
I'm calling BS on the Lions. This is complete. This
Yeah.
is complete BS. Okay, you need to look a little bit deeper at the fans that have invested. Okay, because that's what they're doing is an investment
Yep.
into this team. They've sat around for decades of futility, and if you need to sell some tickets because you have drastically increased prices, the Bears increased 10% this year. The Lions 30%.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So you need to take a look at what you've done to fans. And here, I'm just going to be blatant with it. I'm just going to tell you how I really feel. I feel that they have filtered out the loyal, dedicated, blue collar. I mean, everything they want in their players, this blue collar, hardworking mentality, right? They have now filtered that out for the higher dollar, wealthier, fair weather fan. And you know why that is? Because at the Commanders game, people started leaving. People started leaving halfway through the fourth quarter.
Not me.
That didn't happen last year, right? I mean, of course, we were winning, but that doesn't happen when we're having a bad game against any team that we've lost to in the last couple of seasons. Nobody was leaving. Maybe a few people trying to beat some traffic. But your loyal, diehard, blue-collar fan that has been there for a long time, those are the people that you are affecting the most. The fans that have been bleeding Honolulu blue all of these years are the ones that are paying the price. There should be an exact number of what you can and can't do with your tickets. Just because you transfer a ticket to somebody doesn't mean that you've sold that ticket. Okay, so if you have 12 seats and you have the account, you have to transfer those tickets to 11 other people, possibly, right? Or 3 or 4 other accounts to bring their family or friends in. So would they consider that to be too much activity? I think however many seats you have, you should be able to transfer those tickets at least one time per season, per ticket, per game, because that makes sense. I mean, It wouldn't make any sense any other way.
Well, yeah, if I'm bringing my wife to a game, I need to be able to transfer that ticket to her phone so she can get in.
Well, and yeah, we do it all the time, right? We might be going to a game together, but, let's say Eric, well, hey, I want to get in line, 3 hours before because they're giving away something. Well, I don't want to get in line that early. You might get in before me and I'll come in, the last hour before, kickoff or whatever. So that kind of stuff happens. But more importantly, the Lions caused this problem.
Yeah.
They raised the prices so drastically, so quick, and so much money that fans that want to retain their tickets can't. And they can't because it's too expensive. So there's a better way to do this. One, create a network, right? Create a network for season ticket holders that can offer their tickets, at a, marginal, increase in price to other season ticket holders. And then that goes there first. And it sits on that market for a couple of days. And then the last 24 hours before the game, it has, then you can, or 48 hours before the game or whatever the number would be, then you could transfer it somewhere else, outside of the network of Lions fans that have bought season tickets. Look, we want Lions fans there. I understand that.
Yep.
But here's the other thing. The Lions are the ones that are making the money on the fees. So if your ticket's $150 and they're charging $120 in fees, it's the Lions' fault that these tickets are so expensive. It's their fault. They're the ones that are making the fee money. Not me, not the company like Ticketmaster. They only make about 3% on every ticket sale. So I'm calling BS. The Lions, you need to have a wake-up call on this because you are pushing out the most loyal, dedicated fans. Hate me, I don't care. I'm sorry. I've been through this for 44 years, right? 27 years this year. Yeah, we don't sell a bunch of tickets. And there's ways that you can do this that makes it more affordable and easy for everybody to enjoy the Lions. Maybe you sell half of a season ticket. You know, maybe you have partner tickets. You know, maybe you sell group tickets, you know, for blocks of games, and you're a partial season ticket holder. I'm sure there's more ways you can do this, but ripping tickets away from somebody like Powell, that's crap. It's absolute crap.
But I do know there are companies that buy a bunch of tickets and all they do is resell them. They never go to any of the games. Now I see both sides of this coin because as of this minute, right now, I am not a season ticket holder, but the opportunity is there. And there's going to be more opportunities to get through this 20,000 person list if they weed out some of these companies that are buying up season tickets.
Well, I think that's a big part of it too. Is you do need to get rid of the companies. There should not be any other brokers involved anymore. And you know, I'm not saying do what the Packers did, but maybe we should be able to invest and buy, you know, stock into the Lions or something like that. There's got to be a different way of doing this. I'm sick of talking about tickets and how expensive they are and how people can't go. And what I don't want to see is I just don't want to see all these fair weather fans going because they can afford to go. And you know, yeah, you're asking or you're allowing, you know, fans that have more money to go to the game. What are they going to do? They're going to buy more gear. They're going to buy more food. They're going to buy more beer. That's what they're trying to do. And I'm sorry, it's wrong. This used to be a family environment. It used to be a fun environment. It still is, but it is not affordable. I just saw something in the chat. Yeah, if you can't go to a football game for less than your mortgage, that's a problem.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. We got a super chat from Michael Garrity. He says, "I'll forever be grateful to Eric for taking me to the Tampa game this past season. I could never afford to go to a game with the prices now."
It's crazy.
And you know, I tried to choose someone to take to every single game. I took Will to a game. I took Michael Garrity. I took other people. You know, and every single game that I took people to, I paid secondary retail prices. I did not get season ticket holder prices to any of the games. I paid retail for every game I went to the playoff game, all of them. And I probably could have paid over a year's worth of mortgages for what I paid to go to all these games.
You know, I think that's the key right there, Eric. I think, you know, thinking about this while you're talking, the fees.
Yeah.
There should be no fees for a season ticket holder to season ticket holder transfer. If you want to maintain the loyalty of these fans and you want to make sure that they're not selling outside of the scope, you need to have identified rules. Identified. Yep. They have to be in black and white. You can sell X amount of tickets per year, and it can only be this much over retail. And if you're doing a season ticket holder to season ticket holder transfer, then you don't have fees involved. We've already paid the fees. Why would we have to pay the fees again?
Exactly. Brent says Eric's a millionaire. Well, not anymore because I spent it all on going to Lions games.
Yeah, it's just nuts. All right, so what else do you have? I want to get into the combine now. If you have anything to talk about,
I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Yeah, so just kick it off. I'm still trying to put numbers together.
Okay, so I have a little list from the combine, and this is a list of the Lions a list of players the Lions have interviewed so far at the 2025 combine. Now this list was from yesterday, so there's going to be few people missing off of this list. So edge defenders, we talked to LSU's edge Savion Jones.
Savion Jones, yep.
We talked to Marshall edge Mike Green. We talked to Ohio State's Jack Sawyer. Texas A&M's Nick Scorton. We talked to him. Auburn edge, Jalen McLeod. And then Minnesota edge, Cody Lindenberg. Oklahoma State edge, Colin Oliver. Notre Dame edge, Howard Cross. Michigan edge, Josiah Stewart. We talked to Illinois edge, Seth Coleman. Boston College edge, Donovan Ezrakow. And then Ashton Gilliette edge from Louisville. So we talked to a lot of edge defenders so far. Okay, now linebackers, we talked to Ole Miss, Pooh Paul, Penn State's Kobe King, Alabama linebacker Jahad Campbell. Now I'm going to have a few words to say about this kid later on. Iowa linebacker Nick Jackson, Clemson linebacker Barrett Carter, Iowa linebacker Jay Higgins. Now there's one I have a little story about here in a minute. And then Jack Kaiser, linebacker from Notre Dame. All right. So we talked to a lot of linebackers, a lot of edge defenders. Now defensive linemen, defensive tackles. We talked to Michigan defensive lineman Kenneth Grant. He's predicted to be pretty high up there. Indiana defensive tackle CJ West. San Jose State defensive lineman Sawan Toy. And then Minnesota defensive lineman Danny Strigow, Darius Alexander from Toledo, and Jordan Birch from Oregon. So we talked to a few defensive tackles. Now offensive linemen. We talked to North Dakota State offensive lineman Mason Miller. From Minnesota, we talked to, oh my God, this is a name, Ariante Ursary. And then Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. That's one that I've heard quite a few times being mocked to the Detroit Lions. Now we talked to a few wide receivers. Virginia receiver Allie Jennings, and then Alec Ayamanor from Stanford, and Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. We talked to a few tight ends, like Will was talking about a little bit earlier. So
Jaden on that list too from Iowa State. If you remember, I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago that I expected at least one, if not two, Iowa State guys to be interviewed, and Higgins is one of them. I'm really high on Higgins right now. I just got to see. I got to watch how he performs, but I'm high on Higgins.
Yep. And then we have tight ends. Auburn tight end Rivaldo Fairweather, West Virginia tight end Cole Taylor, and CJ Dipree, tight end from Alabama. Now, this is going to be a surprising one to a few people. The next names I'm going to talk about, running back. Why would we need a running back? LSU running back Josh Williams, Boston College running backs Treshawn Ward, and then a kicker, Miami kicker Andres Borregales. And then safety from Pittsburgh, Donovan McMillan. Now, I know the interviews are nowhere near done for the week, but after looking at this list, it sure seems the Lions are looking for help in the trenches in this draft. And let me see if I can find my other story about this. Should be right close. Let's see. Might have been under it. Yep, it was the other direction. I just had to keep going down my sheet. All right, so the Detroit Lions. A Lions starter helped prepare a former Iowa teammate for the NFL Combine. It remains to be seen whether Iowa linebacker Jay Higgins, who met with the Detroit Lions staff in Indianapolis, fits the mold of a Dan Campbell guy. But one thing is certain, he's a Jack Campbell guy. In the days leading up to the NFL Scouting Combine, Higgins shared that his former Hawkeyes teammate, Jack Campbell, now a starter for the Detroit Lions, not only gave him insight on how to play the position during their time at Iowa, but also spoke with him ahead of his arrival in Indianapolis. Last season at Iowa, Higgins recorded 124 tackles, 53 solo, along with 5 passes defended, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 1 recovered, and a sack. His production earned him unanimous All-American honors, as well as the Big Ten Linebacker of the Year award. Man, that sounds awful similar to Jack Campbell. The 23-year-old linebacker also shared that he had an informal meeting with the Lions staff. So there's another guy to keep an eye on for last night for the linebackers. And the linebackers didn't get over until really late. And
Yeah, I had a boogie, man. I couldn't sit any longer.
yep, so I did not get to see him because they went on really late.
All right, so let me start getting into some of these players that
Sure.
look, I'm gonna have to get all these numbers compiled for later because there's just so much data. And I'm fairly disappointed that for whatever reason, like they don't even have the bench in. All these different sites have bits and pieces. Like even the NFL, they don't even have the hand side or the wingspan. I mean, it's like if you're gonna do it and you're gonna measure all these things, why not have it all together? It just, I'm sorry, maybe that's my OCD of having things nice and clean and tight and perfect and making sure that things are actually in order. Because it looks just like a big cluster, you know what? So I'm going to have to pull from 3, 4, 5 different sites just to be able to make sure that everything aligns. But I got to tell you that yesterday I was thoroughly impressed with the depth of the defensive line, not just edge, but the defensive line. And I think that there's going to be some guys that drop, right? There's going to be some guys that obviously helped themselves out yesterday. And I think that's what the combine does. I mean, if you're a person that looks at tape and then you want to match that tape up to what they do in the combine, which is what I do, like the combine, pajama Olympics, it's not the end all be all. It's just a confirmation for me. And I would love to be a fly on the wall for these conversations that they're having with the quarterbacks. But you can see, I mean, just tons of pages of notes that I make myself. They actually did something, Eric, that we said last year that they should do, but they still kind of failed with it.
They had a program with everybody on it?
They had a program with everybody on it, and then you had area where you could fill in the 40, the flex test, the broad jump. But it's so small, like no one can use this. I mean, good try.
But at least it's there.
Yeah,
Remember,
there should have been at least another 3 pages so that it could be bigger. And
last year, when you went through the doors, there was a person at a little desk, and they had a sheet like that, similar to that, and you could take a picture of it. Remember, I'd go each day and take a picture of it, and just so I knew who was who and when they were coming up, and what number, because these guys, they don't have names on the back of their. Well, some of them did on the back of their shirts this year, but in years past, they don't have names on them. They just have a big number on the front, and you have to figure out who everybody is. It's not like they announce up next in the 40s.
That was the other thing that I was going to mention. And I mentioned it to some of the other people there that were working the event. I said, it would really help if they would mention what drill they're running. And then they started putting it on screen where it said wave drill or rip and cut or rip and curl or the 4-bag agility. But putting that stuff on the screen, we don't get to see it all the time. But it's like watching on the screen and trying to watch, on the field. Nothing's lining up. We don't know who's running because you can't see.
No.
And they're not going to announce everything. And it's supposed to go in order of this program. But in here, there's people that, there's players that are not running. There's players that aren't testing, but we don't know that. And they try to announce it a little bit at the head of the group. Like group 1 comes on, they'll announce who's not running, who's not doing this, you can barely hear it. Yeah. But it would be great if they could just have a little bit more transparency. I mean, they've been doing this for 30 years now. It just has not evolved. It has not evolved.
No, and then I didn't like the music when they were playing music during the drills.
No, they didn't do that last year, and you could see that it affected some of the guys. They started dropping footballs, and I felt like it broke their concentration. I honestly thought it was an accident. I don't think that was supposed to happen because for the large portion of the day, they were not doing anything inside. You had to have it in your ear, and then all of a sudden they're starting to play this loud music in the stadium.
Yeah, it made no sense.
Yeah,
I didn't like it. And then they would play music on the TV, or Rich Eisen would be talking, and all you could hear was that music, and it was very, very distracting.
Yeah, I think whoever was in charge of audio, which seems to be or audio video seems to be a consistent problem in the NFL, they need to be fired.
Well, Rich
that I want someone to lose their job, but
Rich Eisen said they don't need to be playing this music because it's not even music that the players would like.
Right. Well, you never know. But
it was like Taylor Swift and stuff. So
they love Taylor, don't they?
Yeah,
Come
I
on now.
know, but it was that style of, I don't think it was her, but it was that style of music, not stuff that I think NFL players would listen to. And that's what Rich Eisen was saying on TV. I don't think the guys approve this playlist, you know.
Yeah.
And later on, the linebackers actually asked them not to play the music.
All right, so let me just start with defensive linemen here. So we got
Okay.
come on here. Give me 1 second.
You can start with tackles or edges.
We'll start with tackles. All right. I know a lot of people were high on Derek Harmon. He's not a top 5 in my book right now. He's just not. Matter of fact, he didn't even make my top 5 list. Yesterday was an opportunity, obviously, for him, according to CBS Sports, to really assert himself as one of the top interior defenders in this year's draft. Obviously, opting to participate or not participate, I think, is going to be an issue for evaluation early in this process. He was consistently a top performer, throughout the drills, and also measured as one of the bigger bodies at the position. His tape to me, it's great, but there's plays in there that I think he's taken off. Yesterday, he did not jump off the page to me. He just didn't. But there's one guy that I haven't watched at all that did make my top 5, and now I have to watch his tape to make sure that he stays there. So today is preliminary, way early, so don't murder me now. I mean, you can, but this is an early part of the process. We're just into day 2 now, so I'm going to take what I've learned. I'm going to watch a bunch of tape today, and then as we get going, we'll have a lot more information coming out. Omar Norman Lott, I think he improved his stock yesterday. This is a guy out of Tennessee that had some slippage issues yesterday, like everybody else. That's not going to hurt him. I don't think that's going to hurt anybody in this process. They just have to have a smooth transition to their pro day, which obviously they'll be more in tune for their pro day. They understand their turf or wherever they're having the pro day, grass or whatever. They know what to wear. Very, very smooth. Matter of fact, Norman Lott, very, very fluid in the 4-bag agility drill. Super smooth, fast. Like I said, he slipped in the bags. Everybody did. Everyone was slipping somewhere at some point. But definitely displayed some body control. I thought he had, for a defensive lineman, not necessarily known to have a ton of bend, but I think that he actually had a little bit of bend to his game. And again, that's not something you're looking for out of a defensive tackle, but he did display it. I thought he moved really well yesterday. Let me get his stats up here as far as overall.
How do you spell his last name?
Norman Lott, so NORMAN LOTT.
All right. I found him.
All right. So Norman Lott, yeah, he measured out yesterday. Now, I can't give you my grade yet because my sheet's not done. But according to the NFL, he had his athleticism score of a 79. He's projected as a average backup or special teamer. I don't believe that one bit. 6'2", maybe a little bit short, as far as a defensive tackle, but we've seen guys shorter than that. Aaron Donald, and he's not Aaron Donald class, do well. 291 pounds. You could say that he's a little bit light. What I see out of him is like the Aleem McNeil style, the young Aleem McNeil, someone that, was a little bit lighter at the position, even a Josh Pascal, someone that's a little bit lighter at the position that can play inside and outside. I've got to go verify the tape again to see, is he a 3-tech, 5-eye? What is he? What is he going to end up being? 33 3/4 inch arms obviously helps his situation. 10 3/4 inch hands. Guy's got massive mitts, long arms. He's going to be able to keep those guards and tackles off of him. And I think that gives these guys a little bit of an edge. Obviously the arm length is critical from my perspective. And I think that it's starting to take hold a little bit more amongst other analysts that the arm length is extremely important. He didn't test anything else though. So no 40, no 10 splits, no bench. Bench hasn't been recorded yet. I was told that they did it all before the combine started, before everyone was allowed to get in it, before 3 p.m. or whatever. I don't know why the stats haven't been posted just yet, but it is what it is. I need to know how strong these guys are to kind of take that next level with it. 6'2", 291 pounds. He definitely can beef up. Wingspan on this guy, and see that's going to tell me, and again, I got to go find all these stats because they just, what? Here, right here. Wingspan will tell you if he's going to be able to add, a bunch of bulk or not. And his score, where's my phone? His score yesterday would be, so you take the wing and you divide it by the height, which would be, well, they have them at 6'1" and 7/8 here, and the NFL doesn't. They have a different score. They have them at 6'2". Yep. This roll it was 6'2", so 74 inches. It's a 1.09. That is an elite wingspan. Or ape score. Excuse me. It's an ape score. That means that he is much wider in the chest, right? And through the arms, he can add some bulk. So at 291, I'm not worried about him adding 15 to 20 pounds and still being able to move the way that he was moving or the way that he can move naturally. So he is one that I feel is helped his stock out quite a bit. He did not make, obviously, my top 5. But Norman Lott, definitely on the rise. De'Aaron Walker, 6'7", big dude, 6'7" and 3/8, 331 pounds, 34 1/4 inch arms, 84 1/8 wingspan. Just a massive human being. And when you take his to get his ape score, obviously we're going to divide wing by height. So it'd be 79.375. It's a 106. So he's still in that upper, great area is what I have it called, great. It's not elite, but it's better than average. It's not elite. It's right in the middle. And so for a guy that has enough wing, he doesn't need to add more weight. He's 331 pounds already. But this guy, I think he did an okay job yesterday. Let me get to my notes. I felt like he was a little bit too tall, slow, too upright. Moves well for his size, around the bags, but I felt that he was just too upright. And so if that tells me something, when I go rewatch his tape, his pad level, where is his pad level going to be on most plays? Where's his explosion going to be? Is he going to be able to stay low? I'm not sold. So De'Aaron Walker, I'm not high on right now. I definitely don't think he helped out his stock. His vertical, 25 inches. Not good. Broad jump, 8'8". So when we talk about explosion, those are the two numbers that matter to me. The broad and the vert tells me your explosion. He's super tall, so it's hard to kind of get that body moving, right? But if he was extremely strong and gifted from the waist below, as far as muscle-wise and explosion-wise, those numbers would be better, and they're not. Doesn't mean that he can't perform at the next level. Somehow they've got him as an eventual average starter. Probably will be. Here's the exact mock. Broderick Martin. He's almost an exact mock to De'Aaron Walker. And I mentioned that a few weeks ago. This information is confirming it. They're almost identical in size, almost identical in agility. So if you're looking at a De'Aaron Walker, compare him to Broderick Martin. And I think that'll give you your answer so far. Maybe a little bit better than Broderick, but I think that's a good comparison. Did you take anything away from either of those two players, Eric?
No, neither one stuck out to me. In the DTs, I only had one that really, really stuck out, and it wasn't one of those two.
Okay. We'll get to that in a moment, I'm sure. So the next guy, Darius Alexander. So somebody that, man, I really loved his tape. Just the measurables that we were hoping to see and the agility that we were hoping to see. I was super excited. Came in at 6'4", 34-inch arms, 10-inch hands, 305 as far as a weight. I mean, that's about as perfect of a defensive tackle as you're going to find. Matter of fact, when you look at my sheet, this is my sheet, so, you know, it's not an NFL grading sheet. I've developed my own, and I've done that for a few reasons, just because I feel like my eye is a little bit different than others, and I'm trying to flush out a system and make my own system. So, obviously, it's all color-coded. You know, I've got very specific guidelines for guys, even where I expect to see them go in the rounds in the draft. But he would arm length, anything over 33.68 inches is great, and that's where he is. Why am I losing?
Yeah, this says he's got 34-inch arms.
Yeah, and so he's just between great and rare. You know, anything above 34.5-inch arms is rare. I mean, that's elite. Poundage wise, so, oh, you know what? This is defensive end. Hold on. Let me get to my D line. Here we go. 33.5-inch and up is great. 34-inch and up is rare. So he's in the rare category. Hand size, anything above 9.75 inches is great. So he's in that category. Weight wise, anything above or between 310 and 325 is going to be your great. 295 to 310 is going to be your average. But see, this is just entering the league. We know in year 2, definitely by year 3, being inside a professional environment, right, with all the right food, the right nutrition, you know, and the right, you know, I guess the right programs that they're going to be installed into, he's going to be able to add more weight. So if you're coming in at 295, I'm not worried. You can add 5, 10, 15 pounds in a hurry. It's just whether or not you want it to be muscle or flubber, right? But at 305, he can definitely get up to 310. He has the body size to do it. He has the frame to do it. So right now, I mean, he's fitting into being almost a perfect specimen. I hate to use the word specimen. I don't even know why I just did that. Perfect prospect, if you will. But then we look at his combine results. So he ran a 4.95, and that puts him as an average in the 40. He had a split of 172. That puts him a little bit below average. And then he had a broad of 9.3, which that is what? What is 9.3? How many inches is that? 111. So that put him in the average range for a broad. And we don't have bench. So I think he's going to grade out pretty well in my formula. Probably going to end up being a second round pick. Late second, could even be, I don't see him slipping into the third, but again, I've got to do a lot of work between now and Sunday to get all these numbers compiled up so I can actually give you some better information. But perfect grades as far as, you know, size, athleticism for a guy that you could take in the second round, I guess is where I'm going with it. I just wasn't as impressed with what he was doing on field. And he's not in my top 5. Couple of notes. Where are my notes on you, Darius? The sheet. Couple of notes on Darius Alexander is that he was just a little bit slow in and out of his breaks. The 4-bag agility seemed to kind of get him. He was really slow moving back and forth. And I've got to see. I got to see more from the guy. If I can look and see what anyone else said about him, that would help. I didn't see much coming out for Darius. The overview: interior alignment with size, length, and physicality for consideration in odd or even an even front. So he can be 3-4, 4-3. Weaknesses: he was easily displaced when pad level starts to drift up high. He did play a little high yesterday, or he practiced a little high. Somewhat sluggish with his short area of footwork. That was noticeable in the bag drill. Gets caught fighting blockers instead of finding the runner. So you can't get caught up with what's in front of you. You got to look past, right? You got to look through. You got to look through the offensive lineman to find the runner or the ball. Average first step quickness. So average first step quickness is also displayed in that broad jump and the vertical. Now his vertical wasn't terrible at 31.5 inches. That actually puts him in average range. And his broad, see, that's where, you know, he's a little bit below or right at average. And the broad is what's going to give you that explosion, right? The vertical is what's going to give you that explosion. And if you're just a little bit light there, you know, the short area quickness and the short area burst is going to be lacking. Doesn't get to point A to point B very quickly. These are all the same things that I was noticing yesterday. That is your mock by NFL.com. So below average bend with his rush. So when they were doing the hoop drill, I don't remember specifically him doing it. I think that I was caught up talking with somebody at the time. Hopefully I'll be able to go back and watch it somehow. But the hoop drill is what gives us, you know, an idea of their bend and balance, right, and burst around. So anything on Darius Alexander for you?
Nope. Wasn't a guy that I had my eye on.
All right, who did you have your eye on? Let's just go with yours real quick.
All right. Mine was someone that I did not know of until yesterday, but just watching this guy, he reminded me so much of Ali McNeil by the way he looked, his hair, everything, and the way he moved and what he did on the field. And that's Elijah Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
He was a big boy. He's 6'1", 334 with 32 3/4 inch arms and 10 1/4 inch hands. And he really stuck out to me. Now, it looks like his production score was pretty low. His athleticism score is kind of in the middle, and his total score wasn't all that high. But to me, he's one of the guys that stood out. He didn't run the fastest 40-yard dash at 5.37. His 10-yard split was 1.88. His vertical jump was 32 inches, and his broad jump was 8 foot 10 inches.
So you probably don't want to hear this, but he is absolutely dead last on my list.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you just kind of said it. I mean, a broad under 9 foot and a 10-yard split at 1.88 and 6'1.5" or whatever he is. He's way undersized, way slow. Just wasn't meeting expectation, which it's unfortunate. I mean, some of these guys really shocked me yesterday.
Yep.
Extremely shocked me because they're falling off the board, in my opinion. Who knows where they're going to get taken? But if you want to go with a guy that surprised me,
yep,
Aeneas Peebles. Aeneas Peebles, in my opinion, he helped himself yesterday in a big way. So let me pull him up.
Yeah, I got him.
I mean, Elijah obviously can still improve. He could have had a bad day yesterday. Who knows? Could have been, hampered by an injury. But the problem with the Aeneas Peebles, too, is the same thing that I just identified for Elijah. This is a guy that is only 6'1.5", right? So he's small. He's 282. He's very light. 31 3/8 inch arms. We already know where I'm going to say on that. 9 5/8 inch hands. So again, mocking him like you're Elijah, or it's the guy tested great, but then when you look at his measurables, just doesn't work.
Yep.
So Aeneas Peebles, he made my top 5 because of how good he looked, and then when I find out where he is as far as height, weight, and all that, I'm like, wow. Like I would not take this guy, and probably not even until the 6th round. Could he develop into something? He absolutely could. You could probably drop some weight on him and turn him into something else. But as a defensive tackle, I don't see where this guy is going to make it. So it's unfortunate. I mean, those are the two guys that I felt could have had a good day yesterday. Obviously, Aeneas Peebles did, but his measurements were just way off.
Yeah.
The other guy that really surprised me. This was someone I haven't even watched yet. Nazair Stackhouse. Now he also had a little bit better performance than I would have ever expected. But just watching him yesterday, he was different, right? Lateral quickness was good, broke well in and out of the bag drill, very smooth. Crisp is a word that I put next to him. Good body control in the hoops. Focuses a little bit more on the lean than I guess some of the other guys did. But Nazir, I mean, 6'4", 32.5-inch arms, 10.25-inch hands, 327 pounds. So probably more of an interior nose, maybe a 3-4 scheme. He could be the nose in a 4-3 scheme. I mean, he definitely could be a nose tackle in this league with that weight, that size. That's a lot of weight at 6'4". Ran the 40 in 5.15, which again, that's not terrible for his size, but it's below where I'd want to, of course, where I'd want to see him. But the 40 is meaningless, right? It really is.
Yeah.
What this tells me, and he had a bad split, 180, but what it tells me is if you're really good at what you do and you know where to be and how to be there and where to, where the ball is, and you have a knack for finding the football, 40 doesn't matter. If you play faster on the field, that's all that matters. The 40 is just a gauge, of your athleticism. But at 320, 27 pounds or whatever he was, 324, 6'4", did not have great, burst as far as his broad, 8'9". Vertical was only 27.5. So this is another later round guy. So if this guy was available, late 4th, 5th, maybe, that's probably where I'm projecting right now until I do some more work. But this is a late round guy that if the Lions are looking for depth, possibly. Loved his motor. Everything else about him is good. His arms are a little bit short, but he's got big hands. And I don't know the wingspan, so I don't know how his APE score is going to line up here as to whether or not he's going to be able to improve his stock any further. So I've talked about a couple of guys that are at the bottom of my top 5. So I got a top 5 of guys that can improve and a top 5 for guys that really showed up yesterday. And ahead of my list, I mean, number 1 on my list, and I apologize not paying attention to the chat here. I got 50 screens open. It's kind of tough.
Which list are you going with on this one?
I'm sorry?
Is this your top 5 best that you think from yesterday?
Yeah, so I'm going to give the top 2. And this is just defensive tackle. Guys that I think the Lions have an opportunity to possibly get. Hold on here.
Can I guess on one of them?
Sure.
Walter Nolan.
No, he's on my list for sure, but
Not top 2?
I don't think Nolan tested yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he did.
Let's see.
If he did, I certainly didn't see him.
Nope, he did not. He did not. That was why I didn't see him run anything yesterday.
Why is this guy not showing up in this? What is going on here?
Computer's giving you...
No, but I mean, how could this guy not be in here? He was clearly on the field. Unbelievable.
A little glitch from the NFL there.
The NFL sucks, dude. I'm sorry. They don't have their shit together some days.
Yep, they do not.
It's just like I got an email the other day that said my NFL premium was canceled. Well, I didn't cancel it. Who canceled it? It's like payment just came out. Clearly it's not canceled. So why is it canceled?
Yeah.
And then you can't even get a hold of people. I mean, I've tried emailing, I've tried calling, and then I'm about so sick of AI right now. It's not even funny. I don't know why this individual is not showing up.
What's his name?
Well, you got Tyleek Williams.
Yeah, he's on here.
He's not showing up on my side. I'm on the NFL Combine site.
Yeah, just go to hit the defensive tackle button.
I did.
And he's like the 5th one down.
But did you select dash, split, vertical, broad? What'd you select?
No, just participants up at the top of the screen.
Oh, that's why. I was in the other one, but it still should be there.
Yeah, he's like the 5th or 6th guy down.
There we go. Tyleek Williams. Okay. Defensive tackle out of Ohio State. 6'3", 32-inch arms, 334 as far as his weight. This is a guy that I would project right behind, DJ Reader with that kind of size. 10.25-inch arms. Now, he tested very well. right? But it's the arm length that gets me. And I know sometimes you have to have a little bit of a give and a take. But for some reason, I think I have the wrong Williams.
Oh, he didn't test.
God damn
That's
it.
why.
I'm exhausted here. Michael Williams. My apologies. It was my
okay.
edge sheet. Michael Williams, 6'5", 260 pounds, 34 and 3/8 inch arms, 10 and a quarter inch hands. Michael Williams obviously is he's an extremely athletic individual. Why is this not? Come on. So I don't have any of his testing grades. I'm second guessing this now, Eric. What the hell did I do?
Yeah, they only have Tyleek Williams. They don't have Malik.
No, it wasn't. Michael Williams, not Malik.
Oh, Mikel. Unless they put him in a different group.
He was the end of Group 1. 1 second.
Yeah, they got him in the defensive edge. That's why.
1 second.
Yeah, Mikel Williams was in the edge.
Did I write the wrong number down? Okay, I'll come back to that. TJ Sanders.
All right.
He's number 2 on my list. Well, right now he's number 1. But TJ Sanders, look, this guy's got it all. His tape is incredible. There's let me get him pulled up. There's a lot that he does right. And to me, tape is going to be more important than anything.
He's got some good numbers here.
I'm trying to
He
get
didn't
to
do
it.
everything yesterday, though.
Yeah.
He didn't run a 40, but he did a vertical jump, a broad jump, a 3-cone, and a 20-yard shuttle. See, now we did not see any of those. We didn't see.
Yeah, they do them off to the side.
Yeah, so we didn't see the broad jump, the vertical, the 3-cone, the 20-yard shuttle. We didn't see any of the lifting, any of that stuff.
Okay, I know what I did now. Okay, so there's 3 things that are going on at the combine. You have the on-field drills, you have the measurables, and then you have the agility, right? So the on-field drills where some of these guys don't test, they don't do the 40, they don't do the vert or the broad or all that stuff. They were doing the things like the wave drill, the 4-bag agility, the rip drill, the run and club. Those are the things that I got to see a lot of yesterday because they weren't doing the other things. They weren't running. They weren't testing their agility. So that's where I made my mistake here. So Tyleek Williams. Let me wind back to Tyleek Williams.
Mhm.
Blazed. I mean, just absolutely blazed the trail yesterday. Lateral agility was out of the, just crazy. Best overall agility, in my opinion, from what I saw yesterday. Clearly, we don't have anything as far as testing grades. But when you watch the guy work, to me, that was more important than anything. Just watching how his body functions in and out of these drills. And I think that it helps these guys. The more that they're able to show their bend and body control and burst through, every section of an agility drill, it's just making their stock rise that much more. And then if you can match it up to testing scores as far as like 40, 10, vert, broad, all that good stuff, that's what you're looking for. Again, doing this now for about 3 years, that's what I'm looking for. Now, his broad was only 9'4", but if we were to look at some of the best defensive linemen to ever do this, broad jump. So what's 9'4"? That's how many inches is that? Hundred twelve inches. So Fletcher Cox, 108. Haloti Nada, 110. Chris Jones, 105. Quinnen Williams, 112. John Hargrave, 109. Braden Fisk, 127. Christian Wilkins, 107. Jonathan Allen, 108. Ali McNeil, 108. Justin Madubuike, 110. Kobe Turner, 114. So when you look at, a big dude like this, 6'4", 297. I'm sorry, that's the wrong guy. Wrong guy. I had Sanders up, sorry. There we go. Williams, no broad, no testing scores. Anyway, if he did score that, it'd still be good. I guess is what I'm saying. Let me go back to TJ Sanders. But Tyreek Williams, based on the on-field drills, I had him as the #1 overall agility guy. Let's get into Sanders here for a moment. You can tell I need some sleep. So Sanders, 6'4". He was my #2 on the day. Again, defensive tackle, 297 pounds, 33 and an 1/8 inch arms, completely fits the spec in the mold there. 10 and a 1/4 inch hands. So good sized paws. He was rated as an eventual starter. Yeah, I don't see that. I think that he is a starter so far. His athleticism score, they only gave him a 68, but he didn't test everything. So 31 and a 1/2 inch vert. Who does that compare against? So first and foremost, that's going to put him in average, maybe a little bit better than average vertical range. But guys like Fletcher Cox only had a 26. Lodi Nada, 31 and a 1/2. Chris Jones, 24 and a 1/2. Quinnen Williams, a 30.5. Rashawn Gary. No, Calais Campbell, 29 and a 1/2. Christian Wilkins, 29 and a 1/2. Jonathan Allen, 30. Ali McNeil, 30.5. Justin Madubuike, 29. Kobe Turner, 30.75. Deron Payne, 28.5. So when you compare, their scores to what's already been done in the league, and then kind of look at where some of these rookies have lined up over the past few seasons, there's nothing wrong with that vert. As far as his broad, same thing. We were just talking about that. He's still matching what some of the best defensive tackles to ever play the game have done. And I take all that stuff into consideration. So I obviously need to see a little bit more, but he's a stout defensive tackle. He definitely gains full extension, good pop, good pad level. Really clogs up lanes, but he crashes. He crashes hard. And yesterday, I would tell you that he stood out. He stood out big time. TJ Sanders. A little bit more average in the lateral speed. And so the 4-bag agility drill going side to side, right? And up and back. He was average, but he did blaze the club rip. Very tight, very fast, very smooth. I can't remember if he slipped yesterday. I didn't write it down, so maybe he didn't. But it was impressive enough for me to see that this guy can weave in and out of offensive linemen. He'll be able to get into the backfield. Do you have his stats by chance?
Which guy?
TJ Sanders.
Yeah, I got him pulled up here right now.
Like college stats.
No, I don't have that.
So 3 sacks in 2024, 46 tackles, 3 sacks in 2023, 1 sack in 22, 5 sacks in 2021. If you're getting 3, 4, 5 sacks a year from a defensive tackle, I think that's plenty, right?
Yeah.
It's better. It's probably average, better than average, especially in a scheme that the Lions run. Yeah, it's great to get more production different ways. It's not always the sack. I'd rather see these guys stuff the run. I think that this guy is going to be able to jump up the board a little bit. Really, really like TJ Sanders. Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon. So again, like I said, he wasn't extremely high on my list. I think that he's a little bit more raw, and I think that's probably going to hurt. I think it's probably going to hurt him a little bit. Someone's going to take him early, without a doubt. Get him pulled up.
Yeah, his prospect grade is pretty high. He's 6'4" and a half, 313 pounds, 34 and 3/8 arms. Holy crap. And then 10 and 3/8 inch hands.
So his measurables obviously are off the charts.
Yep. Big dude.
All right. So I had him slow on brakes, coming in and out of the agility drills, not very refined. He looks slow. He looks sluggish. And see, that stuff doesn't show up on tape all the time. And so doing these agility drills kind of puts you into a box, right, that you have to perform in. And so when you're trying to weave in and out of bags, or you're trying to do spin moves, or you're trying to do the 4-bag agility drill, how are your feet moving, right? What's your bend looking like? He just didn't have it for me. Great measurables. I mean, good sub 5 40-yard dash. 174 split is not terrible. It's not great. 174 split's going to put him in the below average grade as far as a split. His 40 would put him in the average. So I have him as a day 2 guy. Hometown out of Detroit. Of course, a lot of people would love to see this guy come back to Detroit. I have him as a day 2 guy. So if the Lions are to pick him up on day 2, I wouldn't be mad. I would not take him on day 1.
I'll take him as a day 2. Hell yeah.
I would take him as a day 2 guy.
Yeah, I like him.
Sorry, a little bit. Things aren't as aligned today as they normally are for me, but getting home at almost 3 a.m. and 4 hours of sleep is just not enough. All right, let's move on to Edge.
All right, this is where it gets interesting.
If you want to start with anybody, go for it.
Let's see. So there's some guys that did not do anything yesterday, like Abdul Carter and Mike Green. But then there was a name that
hold on. Hey, J-Rod.
Yeah,
you're right. It's probably linebacker.
What's linebacker?
He said defensive line's not our number 1 pick anyway. It's probably linebacker. Honestly, if we get a shot at a linebacker in round 1, and it's a good one, I would not be surprised.
I'm going to say this: if that Campbell kid's there in round 1, don't be surprised if the Lions take him. Campbell. You can't. How in the heck could you ever go up against 3 Campbells? I don't think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I said that yesterday when I called you. I was like, could you imagine having 2 Campbells in the middle of the defense and then 1 on the sideline?
Yeah, we'd be unstoppable.
It's funny.
It's Campbell. Oh man, we'd be unbeatable.
All right, participants, defensive end.
And we'll talk about Mr. Campbell when we get to the linebackers. Yeah. But one guy that came out yesterday that I had never heard of before yesterday was Shamar Stewart. You want to start with him?
Okay, yeah. We could start with Shamar. So, Shamar to me, based on some things that I've read, watched, people that I spoke with yesterday that obviously have in-depth knowledge of the individual. He's a good dude, right? Just a good dude. Loves ball, little bit raw, but has everything else that you're looking for. He has the intangibles, right? He's going to be that grit guy. He's going to be the culture guy. He's not someone that gets in trouble. He's definitely going to have a good locker room presence. His athleticism score, look, we expected this. I expected this after watching the tape, obviously listening to some of the other analysts speak yesterday. His athleticism was supposed to be what it was, and it was, and even more so than what it was. It is hard to turn down a guy like Shamar Stewart when you see what he did yesterday. Production score, maybe not the greatest, but as far as what, you can't teach speed, right? You can't teach, a vertical, yeah, you can train, you can add more muscle, but you know how hard it is to teach someone to jump high or jump long or run fast. It's either you have it or you don't. You can get as big and bulky and strong or light and strong and as you want, but it doesn't always translate to snappy ligaments. There's just something different about these guys that have really snappy ligaments that are able to do these things that other guys can't. Shamar tested out of sight yesterday. I was extremely impressed, and I was even more so impressed by what, the family I was sitting with talking about Shamar. Just a good kid, loves ball. These are the kind of guys you want to have. I don't think that he's going to slip to day 2 now. I really don't. But he is somebody that probably takes a year or 2 to become elite. Maybe not elite like, top 10, top 15 defensive tackle in the league, but at least somebody that is a very, very, very good starter by year 2, and someone that could be a top 30, top 25, maybe by year 3.
And what GM likes to take those type of prospects?
Well, it would definitely be Brad Holmes. And I mean, I would love to see, I hate to see a guy slip. I mean, obviously I want Shamar and Nick and all the other guys to all go number 1, right? I want all these guys to get as high as they can in the draft. The one thing that I understand about these guys is money ain't going to change them. They are who they are. They just want to play football. And when you learn that about somebody, and we already know what we know about the Lions, they're great fits. Now, I wish that I could have that conversation with all of the prospects' families and parents and people that know them. Obviously, we're not there yet. Give it a couple more years, we'll get there.
Now, in the chat, they're saying that Shamar Stewart was a linebacker, but they have him in the edge group here.
Depends on what system you're going to put him in. But at 267, 6'5", 34 and an 1/8 arms, he is an edge.
Okay.
He is definitely an edge. Now, at Texas A&M, I don't remember the exact defense they ran. Is that the 33-24? Okay, so Texas A&M ran more of a hybrid scheme, so more of a 3-man front. So that's going to put, a guy like Shamar obviously as an outside linebacker when they're rolling with 4, but it puts him up on the line, off ball or up on the line. More aggressive in a pass rushing concept, but versatile coverage in the backfield. They utilize a mix of zone and man. So when you look at a guy like this, it's versatility, right? He could play as an outside linebacker in that scheme, right? Up on the line more as of an edge rusher. But in a 4-3, he's going to be up on the line on the outside. He's not going to be as an outside. He's too big to be an outside linebacker. Way too big, in my opinion. I mean, 6'5", 267 pounds is the floor for this guy. He could bulk up to 280, and he's going to be just like another Josh Paschal, right? And I would implore all of you, go look up Josh Paschal's Kentucky highlights and tape. Go watch a couple of games, and then go watch Nick Scorton. I swear you see the same guy. But Shamar, look, he's a little raw, but that doesn't mean that you don't put him in the right system with the right coaches, the right scheme. And I mean, he could really surprise us in year 1. I'm definitely high on him, and he is in my top 5. So, matter of fact, he is my number 4. So he's number 4 on my list, and that's only because of the raw factor, right? It's not anything else other than the raw factor. He could slip today too. If he does, he's probably a Detroit Lion. If the Lions can move up, because he's not going to slip to 60. I couldn't imagine right now that he's going to slip to 60. If Brad Holmes does not move up early into the second round, which again, I'm expecting, you can say you heard it here first. Rumor is Lions want to back out of number 1 and get into number 2 early and multiple, because that's where the meat of this draft is, at least from what I see. But Lions want to back out of 1 and slam this draft with such a deep draft on defensive line and really beef up what we're able to do. Shamar's, as far as my notes on him yesterday, as soon as I can find him. Yeah, I can't even read my own chicken scratch. I was so upset that I couldn't bring in my backpack. So I didn't think about bringing a clear bag, because last year I was able to walk in with my backpack. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
And then I'm getting down there. I'm like, you know what? I better check and see, because I don't have a media pass, right? So, and I walked right into the media door, and I probably could have gotten through it. All right, Shamar Stewart. He had a hammy pull, I think, after the 40. He was holding his hammy yesterday after the 40. Do you remember seeing that?
Yeah, yeah. They said they thought he was hurt, but he wasn't.
He tested very well. I thought that his lateral quickness, his agility. I mean, I put stars by guys that I felt were top 5 worthy. He was obviously one, but I thought that he moved very fluidly. I mean, oily hips. And usually I don't use that word other than for corners, but he was smooth. When I don't remember the drill, what it's called, but they hike the ball and they're running back and then they're going to left and then they're going to the right and then they're coming forward and then they're going back and then they turn and they run.
The wave.
It might have been the wave.
Yep. That's what they were calling it yesterday.
That he looked great in. So I think that for what he did yesterday, he definitely garnered a second round grade, if not still up in the first round for someone that sees the uniqueness of his size and blend of athleticism. He's going to be excellent. What did you think of Shamar?
Yeah, I that was my surprise of yesterday. I didn't know who he was coming in, and they were talking about him on TV a little bit. They were giving him some high praise, and so after they started talking about him, then I started watching him a little bit, and I really liked him. I thought he did really good in the 4-bag drill and the wave. And then I don't remember what's the one where they lay on their chest and they got the 4 bags on the ground and they have to do the back and forth. I can't remember
The
the name
4-bag
of that.
agility drill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the where they're stepping their feet over the bags on the ground. And I thought he did really well in that as well. And I learned yesterday that all of the players, they have a chip in their T-shirt that they wear.
Yeah.
And that's how they track everything, is through that little chip in their T-shirt. And there was one player that forgot his T-shirt and wore a sweatshirt instead. And he ran the fastest edge time, and they didn't have a tracker on him.
Hey, my son is in the chat. I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't see you in there, buddy. Christian Rocks in the house. Love you, bud. Good morning or afternoon, whatever it is now. Good morning. So here's something about Shamar that I absolutely loved. And this speaks to my hive defense theory, right? What I would love to see is if I was a coach, and how these guys interact and perform. Quote from Shamar: "I wasn't a sack chasing warrior. I just wanted to become the best player for my team. Sometimes the stats don't show that. It's more individual. Sometimes I have the play dead to rights and couldn't finish or get there in time. Also, teams were not going to pass the ball against us. We had a stacked D-line and everybody knew better. If you don't pick me, just know I'm bringing hell to your city." Love that statement by him. He's very confident in what he does, but I think that it goes in, a little bit deeper here, that he's not a selfish player. He's not looking to get all of the stats. He just wants to be the best football player he can for his team. That's the Detroit line. Hands down. That's the Detroit line. If we end up with Nick Scorton or Shamar Stewart, we won the draft, without a doubt. Both these kids are going to be able to play at a high level. I'm projecting him with his size, his rare ability. He is going to be that next Myles Garrett in the NFL. At some point, I see him being that good. Now, he may not knock down 15, 20 sacks a year, but he will be so dominant that it'll be hard to defend him without double teaming or, constant chips, which opens up the other side. And so when you think of, you still have Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. Obviously, he's going to, you can't just not double team him, or you can't not chip him. There's only so many assets on the offensive line. You can't double everybody. So when you've got a pocket crusher like a DJ Reader and a Lee McNeil through the center, and then you've got a pocket crusher on the outside, and then you got a speed end like Aiden, you just can't. Now, if we add that interior linebacker that we really need, or outside linebacker that can really cover the middle of the field, that's what the Lions are missing. So between adding a guy like Shamar and adding a top-tier outside linebacker, look, this defense is about to take off. We are so much closer than we are away. And I hope you guys realize, I mean that with all sincerity. We are so much closer than we are away on this defense. I would love to see Shamar. according to Field Yates, might be the most interesting prospect who has a real shot to go in the first round. Now, he just had 4.5 sacks in 3 seasons. A lot of almost plays like the one below. We get a lot of almost plays from Aiden Hutchinson, right? That turn into a lot of pressures, but no sacks, or a lot of pressures, but no tackles. So, or a lot of pressures, but no TFLs. Same thing can be said for Shamar. High energy, right? Motor's just running, and he's almost there. But at 6, what was he? What did he measure? 6'6"? 6'5". 267 pounds. Obviously dropped a little bit of weight for the combine. He can balloon back up. Matter of fact, let's take a look at his.
Yeah, they said in college he played around 280.
Yeah. Shamar Stewart. Let me get his wing score. Anybody else you want to talk about? I mean, we have plenty, but
yeah, I say after we talk about Shamir here, let's talk about Nick Scorton next. Why not? You sat next to his parents, and these two were playmakers at Texas A&M together.
Yeah, they were, man. I can't stress enough. What a great family. Just great conversation. Just so fun to talk with these guys. I had no idea who I was sitting next to, and then it just clicked, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
So, all right. So his APE score, I hate the term APE score, but 83.5 divided by 77. He's a 108.4. So he's up in that elite range, which means that he can add some size. Again, I'll explain, the APE is the wing divided by the height. And then that gives you, a score. If you're anything like 1.01, you're like extremely average. If you're a 1, you're extremely average. Once you start getting into the 02s, 03s, 04s, that's telling us that, even if your arms are a little bit short and you have a wide wing, well, you can get long because of what you have between the center of the breastbone and the shoulders. You can get long with an arm. And working on the outside, you want to use that long arm, get it up in a tackle on the outside shoulder and just keep pushing them away as you're bending around. Violent hands, Nick Scorton. He's next. Nick Scorton he's impressive. One of the best pure edge setters that I've seen in this draft. Now, there's some players, there's some prospects that do different things, right? You got speed guys, you got guys that get after the passer. And then you have guys that set the edge. And Nick Scorton, by all accounts, in my opinion, is one of the best edge setters that I've seen. And let's see here.
It doesn't show that he did any drills yesterday.
Well, he definitely didn't run.
Yeah.
I know he definitely didn't run, but he did the wave, he did the rip and curl, he did the 4-bag agility.
Yeah.
But he did not do all of the other testing. Okay. Nick Scorton. He got my only 5-star next to Tyleek Williams, Landon Jackson. There's good and bad on James Pierce. And we'll talk about all that. David Walker got some decent scores here there. Tyler Batty. A lot of these guys got some good scores, but Princely U really surprised me yesterday. So as far as Nick goes, great bend. A bit jerky on the climb up. So doing the hoop drill, he had great bend down. And I think his problem wasn't his ability or his agility. I think the problem was the damn shoes. I think that he kept slipping out of the shoes. So when he's bending, your foot, how your foot and your ankle will roll sideways and your shoe's supposed to stay planted. I don't think it was staying planted, but it's kind of hard to see as far back as we were. I think the shoes really did not help him yesterday. So
Yeah,
I'm less
kept coming off.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about what I saw, with losing shoes and that. I think that was a hindrance to him yesterday. And I wish that they would have had a second pair of shoes or something they could have put on, but they didn't help his case, but I don't think it hurt him. I think that NFL teams are going to understand that there was a lot of issues with shoes, turf, whatever yesterday. He'll have a pro day where he's going to be able to knock it down And what I saw was great. So very, very, very smooth in and out of the breaks. Very, very heavy hands. So this is his dad was telling me, and his brother's a boxer. And so they train with boxing. And I said, have you guys done any MMA training? Have you done any hand fighting training? You hear me talk about it. I think that all of these players would benefit from that. Well, they box. So Nick boxes with his brother. So he's getting that training, right? And when you watch him hit the bags yesterday, oh my God, was it violent. I mean, you could hear it. There was that big of a pop. We're way, way up. We're 100 yards away or whatever. And you could hear that bang. And just very powerful, thick, heavy hands. And that's what you want to see, when you're climbing a tackle on the outside and you're making that bend and you just pop that shoulder, get long, and knock them off balance. That's how you're going to be able to bend that edge and get to that quarterback. So, look, Nick thoroughly impressed me yesterday. But more so, honestly, it's that family, right? And knowing what kind of individual he is that is going to fit the Lions. So when we take this back and strip it down, Nick as an NFL athlete is going to be great. But Nick as a Detroit Lion is a perfect fit. And I hope that he has an opportunity. I just don't know. If he's going to last past mid-round, middle of the first round. And I don't think that Brad, from what I'm hearing, I don't think that we're trying to give up multiple first-round picks to move up into the first round. Now, here's the other thing that I'll say. Knowing that this draft is so deep and what we have as far as free agents and a rash of free agents seeking trade, it's kind of watered down the draft as far as your ability to move around. So if you're trying to move up, it may cost less than seasons past or drafts past. Where let's say going from 28 to 15, I don't have exact numbers on me, but let's say it costs pick swap, next year's first, this year's third, next year's fourth. Let's say that could have normally gotten it done. Well, now it's going to be pick swap, next year's first, and maybe next year's third. It might be one whole pick less to move up this year. Numbers obviously matter. I'm just kind of giving you an idea. That's not exact, but I think that it's going to be a little bit easier to move up as far as how much draft capital you have to give away, but I don't think that teams are going to be willing to move off their picks knowing they're not getting as much in return. But at the same time, conversely to that, they may move off their picks knowing how deep this draft is if they want a defensive lineman, whether that's edge or tackle. Linebacker, I don't think is as deep as I was thinking it was going to be.
This guy, Nick Scorton, so his NFL comparison is Trey Hendrickson.
It's a good comparison.
So could you imagine having a player that compares to Trey Hendrickson on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah, I don't think the Lions could go wrong with either one of these guys, and it's just rolling the dice on where you are selecting in this draft.
Yeah, and wow. So it would be absolutely incredible. I couldn't imagine our defense. Oh, we were good last year. Just wait, we'll be even better this year.
So the one thing that people read on Nick is he took a shot by going to Purdue, right? I mean, not a whole lot of people would go to Purdue after what they have a 1-win season or something, but he shot onto the scene, 10 sacks, 50 tackles, transferred to A&M. Stats decreased, but again, this was it's that hive mentality, right? They're working together as a unit. Not everybody is trying to get all of the stats. They were just trying to win football games. And yeah, he had 37 tackles, 5 sacks in 2024, but he was also double teamed almost the entire season. And I think that you have to look at those things and really kind of flush out why did your stats drop and does it really matter? At the next level, you may not be double teamed. You may be able to work, a little bit more singled up. And as long as you can win those one-on-ones, I think it matters. So watching his right now, I'm gonna watch his agility drill. He definitely dropped the weight. So they're even talking about it here on the Draft Junkies. They must have mentioned it yesterday. My goodness, he's just fluid. Extremely fluid. And we'll do some more look-ins at this. I'll bring in some video and we'll watch, each one of these. I'm going to start doing videos now of players that I like. Nick Scort, man, he's the total package. Lions would be remiss by letting him walk if they've got a shot. Let's talk about Landon Jackson.
Yeah. So that's a kid I think we might have a shot at, actually. And this kid from Arkansas, 6'6", 264 pounds, 33.25-inch arms, 10-inch hands. He was very long, very tall. All of his scores are super high. Really good scoring. He ran a 4.68 with a 1.65 split. He had a 40.5-inch vertical, and then his broad jump was 10 foot 9 inches. So he blew a lot of that stuff right out of the water. I was impressed. I thought he looked really good. They say his NFL comparison is Logan Hall, and I don't know who Logan Hall is. So
Honestly,
they must.
I don't remember the name Logan Hall either.
I don't know. So they must not think he's going to be all that great. So looking at his strengths and weaknesses on this website, he's got about an even amount of strengths and weaknesses. But what I saw was a kid that looks ready and has a giant wingspan to me, and he looked a little clunky now and then, but man, he just looked like he'd be able to grab you from 6 feet away and stop you from running up the middle and be able to get around the guy at the tackle position and get to the quarterback and get that sack. That's the kind of guy he looked like to me. Like he'd have that leaping ability to get around somebody if he's got the bend. And he kind of impressed me yesterday. I didn't know who he was going into the day, but he was kind of impressive. Played at Arkansas as an edge.
All right.
What do you
So
think of him, Will?
I'm trying to pull his numbers right now.
Okay.
It's just so weird. Like, okay, on NFL's website, let me pull Scorton up for a second. So they've got Scorton. I want to back up for just a second. So they've got Scorton at 6'3", 257. He dropped like 15 pounds or whatever. 33-inch arms. So he makes the cut for arms for me. 10-inch hands. And then let's find his wing. Please, NFL, put this stuff together in one sheet.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Like, come on. This is why I made my own sheet, because I'm sick of digging for stuff. So I got to do it once. It's going to take me all day to do it, and then I'm good. 80 and 7/8 inch. So Nick Scorton's ape score. .08, so damn near elite.
Yep.
So Nick can obviously add a ton of weight. All right, so Landon Jackson, same thing. I've got to flush out, a couple of things for him so we can talk about him intelligently here. I'm highly unprepared today, if you guys can't tell. It's not like me. So if you're just now joining for the first time, it's not normally what I do. Normally we're on it. Landon, where are you at? All right, here we go. Landon Action Jackson. 6'6", according to this site. Came in at 264 pounds. No hand size. Fun.
Said 10 inches for his hands.
83,675 for his wing. Arms 33 and a quarter. 10-inch hand.
Yep.
All right, so his ape score is going to be pretty good. 107. So can still add some frame, some weight to his frame. One thing we learned about Landon, I mean, he's beautifully bald, right? And they were saying that yesterday because he, at a very young age, like age 8, hair started falling out, developed alopecia. And so he wants to start a foundation. Obviously, that's something that's near and dear to his heart. I thought that stuff was great, man.
Yeah, if you remember the Pastronaut, he also has alopecia.
Who?
And the Pastronaut,
I don't know what that
Josh
is.
Dobbs, the quarterback for the Vikings last year, or a year before last.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they called him the Pastronaut, and yeah, he also has alopecia. So something a couple of guys in the NFL deal with.
Yeah, so Landon obviously looked way better than I thought. Than I thought that he was going to look, right? I mean, when you look at someone's tape and you can see just how fluid they are on the field, and he was someone that I mocked to the Lions like very early. Matter of fact, if I were to pull up my mock drafts, you know, Landon is somebody that was consistently mocked into the second round. My very first mock, I had Landon Jackson pegged to the Lions. Very first mock. Second mock, I had Walter Nolan, which I don't expect Walter to slip just yet. But Landon Jackson was the guy that I identified on my very first mock draft. Just number one, the tape spoke volumes. Number two, now that I've seen what his measurables are and how he's such a gifted athlete, here's my notes. Very oily hips. Second guy that I said that about that is not a cornerback. Clean breaks. So he's getting in and out of the bag drills, rip, curl, you name it. Just extremely fun to watch. He did have a couple of slips. He slipped in the wave, but he caught, had very, very good fluidity. And I felt that his back pedal, everything that he was doing, it just seemed easy. And when you have an easy, almost like a motionless move to your left, your right, or diagonally, obviously that's what you're looking for somebody flying off the edge, is someone that has effortless move about them. In the hoop drill, again, that's the bend, it's on one of these sheets. So in the hoop drill, when you're looking at, his bend, his body control, and or his burst, I don't think there was a better guy that did it yesterday. I thought that he stayed low to the ground through the entire process. He didn't like pop up. He stayed low and kind of went through the hoop. And again, I hope that we can watch this stuff later, because being able to go back and rewatch it again yesterday, when you're sitting there, it's like they're not there. I mean, it's just one after another, after another, after another. And you can't write and look and write and look. It's that quick. So I try to do the best job I can. They don't allow you to record. Otherwise, I would have brought a little tripod and just set up my phone and just recorded the whole darn thing. Then I could have went back and rewatched it later. But he's someone that obviously is going to fly up this draft board. I do not expect him at this point to slip out of the first round. I just don't. But I still got more work to do on him. What is everyone else saying about him? That's the biggest thing. He was one of the biggest risers, according to Sports Illustrated. Perhaps the loudest on-field uproar Thursday night came after his vertical jump. I was sitting there when that happened. I was watching it go down. I couldn't believe that he jumped over 40 inches. 6'6", 260 pounds. I mean, just very, very, very athletic. He followed that up with a 4.68 40 with a 1.65 10 split. It looked very smooth during the drills. Moved better than his size suggested. Jackson was listed at 280 at Arkansas. Clearly, he dropped a little bit of weight for this exercise yesterday, and he was noticeably slimmer. He looked, I mean, just ripped. No body fat on this guy. He had 9.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks in 2024. You're not going to like this, but here's my mock. and I don't know if anyone else has said this yet, but when you look at guys that that have played in the NFL, let me go to the best edges of all time that I'm on my list here. When you look at the guys that have done this at a high level, guys that have ran and done similar things that he has done as far as his agility, TJ Watt was 7'3" and a quarter. Landon is 6'6", so he's got a couple of inches on him. JJ Watt was 7'5" and a quarter. And that is more of my direct comparison to Landon Jackson right now. Is JJ Watt. Now JJ Watt ran the 40 in 4.81. Landon blazed it in 4.68. 10-yard split was 165. JJ was 171. Vertical for JJ was 37. Landon 40.5. Wow. Broad for JJ was 120. It was 129 for Landon. We don't know the bench. That could be the separator, but by looking at this dude's pythons that he had wrapped around his arms, I can't imagine that he's not going to put it up 30 plus times. Ape score, I mean, elite. Hand size, 10 inches is above average. Weight, JJ played at 290, and I think Landon was at 280. So this guy can add more weight. I have Landon as that next JJ Watt style of player. You could compare him to a Myles Garrett almost directly as well, as far as that type of body frame, the elite skills as far as agility. I think that fits well. You call me crazy, but I think this guy is going to be one of the next great ones in the NFL for a long time. I really do. I don't see him getting out of the first round. So this could be a player that, if you're sitting at 28 and Landon's on the board, the Lions aren't moving out of the first. There's no way you can pass up on him. You just can't. Character, there's not a better guy. There's a few guys in this draft that their character is just incredible, and this is one of them. So another guy that really impressed me, Landon Jackson. Right now, I don't know where my pen is, but Landon was number 2 on my list. Number 2.
Ooh.
Where you want to go next?
Let's see. We'll go back on this screen. Let's go to James Pierce, Mr. Blazing guy.
James Pierce. Okay.
Yeah, he's even got the hoodie on in his picture.
Yeah, he forgot his shirt.
Yeah. So he wore the hoodie yesterday. Didn't have a chip in his thing, so they couldn't trace him wherever he ran on the field.
You know what? I didn't know they put a chip in the shirt. I wonder if he did that by purpose.
I don't know.
So James Pierce, look, he kind of had a tough day. Blazed the 40. Was it 4.47? I think was the official.
Yeah, 4.47. So he was the only one under 4.5.
Yeah, he had good movement in the drills. I thought that he was fluid. I thought that he was fast, obviously. He definitely made a case for himself at 6'5", 245 pounds. And where I have a problem with Pierce, one, through conversation, understanding that James Pierce is not going to be your run defender on the first down, right? He's a third down guy all day. I don't think that he plays. I don't think he's a 4-down guy for sure. I don't even think he's a 3-down guy. Call me nuts. I've been called worse, but I do not see him as a first down run defender at this point in his career. He may project better as an outside linebacker, as opposed to an edge. And depending on what type of scheme that he gets drafted to, that may be the utility for him. Is it maybe, and I don't know what everyone else is saying, but my thing with him was his other measurables. Let me pull them up. I can't remember what they are right off the top of my head. Yeah, obviously he had good grade, 6.4. Vertical at 31, broad at 10.3. I mean, they're all fairly elite, right? But he just seemed like he wasn't as, how do I put it? I mean, he's lean, he's wiry. I mean, he's all the things that you want in a fast, twitchy edge guy.
I'll tell you what, Rich Eisen couldn't stop pouring all over this guy. He loved him yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people get excited about your agility scores. When I go back to the tape at Tennessee, I just saw inconsistent play. So yesterday was one of those things where the combine asserts the fact that the dude has it physically. But mentally, with the inconsistencies, are you willing to take that risk? And at that small frame, are you willing to take a guy in the first round that can't play every down as an edge rusher? That's the only negative mark that I would have on Pierce. Someone's going to take this guy in the first round, probably. I would be surprised if he doesn't. I'd be very surprised. But I really don't have much other than that. Let me go to my notes. Yeah, I didn't have much on him. I mean, he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. It's just, I don't know. You got to watch the tape on him again.
Yep.
I think that's the key is where the inconsistency is going to align. Another guy that I want to go to, though, is Oladejo.
All right.
And then Princely U.
Yep. I think we should also talk about Mr. Controversial, too.
Who's Mr. Controversial?
He's got arms that aren't that long.
Oh, Sawyer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sawyer completely dropped off my board right now. We'll just go there.
You want to go to him first?
Might as well.
All right. I did bring him up. He's pretty high on their list.
I'm sorry. At 31 and 3/4 inch arms, he's 6'4", 9 and 3/4 inch hands, 260 pounds. I mean, he has all of the ability in the world, all the agility in the world. He didn't.
No.
I don't think he tested, in all of like the 40s and all of that, but he did do on-field drills.
Yep. They have no 40 for him or anything. Now, when he was at Ohio State, wasn't he a linebacker at Ohio State?
I think so. I think so.
Some of these guys, they're swapping between linebacker and edge.
Yeah, it's a scheme thing. So, it's just like Eagles run a 3-4 and you have more outside linebackers that in a 4-3, depending on their size, they may project as a 4-3 edge. True outside linebacker, obviously you want them to have good coverage skills. They may not have great coverage skills. The schemes are so different and vast.
Now, I think ever since Aaron Glenn and Dane Campbell got here, and even maybe Calvin Shepard, they've been looking for that Sam linebacker / edge guy.
It's been a consistent problem.
Yeah, so I think this year is the year they may go after one of those.
Is it Jack Sawyer, though? I mean, is Jack going to slip in this draft? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that it.
Remember, there's always a surprise dropper in every draft. And
There's usually a few.
This guy may be one of those, even though he's, really well liked by fans and some people in the media. Teams tend to look past what the media and fans think, and they go by their own judgment of players.
Well, that's all it is. I mean, the NFL teams are doing their own evaluation. So Jack Sawyer, with his, this is what turned me off, is the wingspan. Okay. 77 and an eighth divided by 74 and a quarter. All right. 77 and an eighth divided by 76 and a quarter. I apologize. I even gave him an extra inch. 76 and a quarter. I gotta flip these numbers around. Quarter and eighth. 103 on the ape measurement, the ape score. So 103 means he's obviously not going to be adding a lot more to his frame. And at 31 and 3/4 inch arms, that means that he is limited on being able to get long. And look, a lot of people love Aiden. I love Aiden for what he does. But if you go and watch Aiden's tape, and I know I use him often, but you kind of have to because he has the short arms, compared to what is an average in the NFL. And when you look at Aiden on one-on-ones, and I think the reason why Aiden has a little bit more trouble getting home, but he does create pressure, is when he gets locked up on a tackle, yeah, he can push the tackle back. He uses his legs, he drives, but he can't free release, right? He can't use his bend and get around the corner with that long arm. Why do you think Aiden uses a spin move? More so than a long arm, it's because he doesn't have long arms. That's why. So if you have to rely on a spin move, from my opinion, that is taking you almost a quarter second out of the play. And then you have to readjust your eyes. It's not like your head can stay here and then you spin and you're still locked on the quarterback or the running back. Your head's turning too. So by the time you get back around, that play could be going to the outside. Or it could be going, to a different hole. That's why I really dislike the spin move. I think the spin move should be used very infrequently. Not as frequent as others like to use it. Aiden probably has one of the best spin moves in the game, but I still feel like it limits your ability to stay locked on the quarterback or the running back on the ball. Jack Sawyer is in that same situation where the wingspan and the arm length, I feel, are a detriment to his ability off the edge. Doesn't mean that he's not a fantastic football player. Doesn't mean that he's not going to have success. Doesn't mean that he may not rack up 10 sacks in year one. If sacks are the only thing you care about. But what it does tell me is more often than not, when you are locked in on a big tackle, you may not win your one-on-ones. There's only a couple of ways to get off of these tackles, and you have to have elite hand fighting skills. And matter of fact, there's some of Nick Scorton's tape that we watched last week where, before he gets up to that tackle and that tackle goes to put those arms out, it was a two-hand swipe, right? And he was getting around that end. And that's utilizing elite hand fighting skills. If Jack has those elite hand fighting skills, that does help out the lack of arm length and wingspan. Same for Aiden. I hope that Aiden is doing a bunch of hand fighting techniques this year, because that's one way he can beat these tackles, is using his speed, elusiveness, and bend with a quick two-hand over chop or under rip or whatever, and getting around these guys. Keep the hands off of you. Don't engage. Sometimes you got to engage because you're trying to set that edge. You're going to engage. You're going to push that tackle to where you want him to be, and you're engaged. But then trying to get off to get to the running back is a totally different story. And if you don't have the elite arm length to push away and then get an arm out to grab a running back or a quarterback, that's what we want to see. Why do you think Myles Garrett is so good at what he does? His wingspan is insane. And that's because he can get locked in with somebody and push them away with one arm and still wrap up, a runner, somebody with the ball. Same thing for Broderick Martin. The guy's a gap eater, and his long wings and arms are going to be able to reach to the next gap to grab somebody and at least slow them down so that a linebacker can shoot the gap and finish the tackle. Production is not always about individuality. It's about what you can do and how your performance on the field leads to more production from the other guys on your team. So, look, Jack is an elite football player from an agility standpoint, from a mental standpoint. He has it all. And now it's, to me, if I'm an NFL scout, if I'm an NFL franchise, I am more concerned about wingspan than anything else, especially at the edge position, less so at the defensive tackle position. But again, it can kind of be said both ways. So Jack, in my opinion, took a step back. Doesn't mean other people feel that way. It doesn't mean that he's not going to have a good career. It's just one of those pause for concern kind of things that I look at. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, he didn't really impress me yesterday. And overall, I liked what I saw in the national championship game because that's the only game I watched of them. Or was it the Michigan? No, it wasn't a Michigan game. It was the playoff game.
Ohio State. Yeah.
Yeah, Ohio State. And then it was the who did they play in the national championship? I don't Notre Dame. And I thought he was really good in that game. I did. I thought he made a case for, being drafted highly in that game, but that's the only tape I've watched on him. So I don't know the rest of his service to Ohio State. I haven't watched it all, but what I saw yesterday kind of tempered me on what I was thinking before of him being the next Aiden Hutchinson type mold, because that's what he looked like in the bowl game. But yesterday, he didn't look so much like the Aiden mold to me.
I think that he has a very similar mold. I know what you're saying here. When you have two guys that here, let me just bring up Aiden. Yes, I do have Aiden in my best edge of all time list. So Aiden was 7'6" in 5/8. What is Jack? Jack is 6'4", so 2 inches shorter. Aiden was 260. Jack's 260. Aiden's 10 1/4 inch hands. Jack 9 3/4, so a half-inch difference. Aiden's arms 32 1/8. Jack's arms 31 3/4, so even smaller than Aiden. But the wing, this is the difference. Aiden's APE score is the only negative score I have on an edge rusher. 0.99. It's not even a 1. So that means that he has nothing left to give, which means he can't get long. So it doesn't matter how tall you are to a degree, right? It's breastbone to shoulder and then shoulder to fingertip. So Aiden's the only one that I had a negative. And as far as Jack, I think didn't I just do his APE score? It was a 103, I think.
Yeah,
103, 103.5. So he does have a little bit more reach, if you will, if you're sideways, right? You're sideways bend with an arm. But Jack's going to have a good career. I have no doubt in that. It's just some of these small subtleties in body comp. They're more triggers for me. And that's just me, right? Not everybody sees it that way, because someone mentioned high motor in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. Aiden's got, he's got a V12 in there, right? He's running. He's constantly going. And that does make up for some of those shortcomings, if you want to call it that. We now call those opportunities, right? According to Mr. Juju Williams. So
yeah.
We call those opportunities. So look, Jack's got a motor. Like, the guy just doesn't stop. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. It really will. He'll slot in somewhere.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that he was going to be like a premier first round, gotta have him pick. Now I'm seeing more second round for Mr. Jack Sawyer. Just my opinion.
Some of his weaknesses that were identified, obviously, by people smarter than me, say that he needs to get his hands more involved, he needs to get his hands involved more quickly to mitigate his lack of reach. This is the first time I'm reading this. I just pulled this up because this was all put in last night while I was sleeping. Missing functional speed to spill action wide and contain. I don't know if he's really missing a lot of speed, but we don't have any of his agility for that. So wide base limits his quickness and success of his inside moves. Lack of bend hinders ability to get into the pocket. Jack, for me yesterday, great bend in that hoop drill. Great bend. Stayed low. This is an area where you expect his short arms to hurt him. So if you have shorter arms and you're not able to reach the towel on the ground by just slightly bending your knees, he has to bend more to get lower, because he's also 6'4". So I thought he had great bend in the hoop drill, which obviously is what we're looking for. A couple other guys that rose up yesterday. Princely Umenemian. Princely U. Prince U. We'll just call him Prince U. I'm sure I'm butchering his name, and I apologize.
Yeah. He's the only Princely in the whole thing, so I'm sure just Princely is fine.
Where you at, Princely?
He is 6'4". He weighed 244 pounds at the combine. Now, this is kind of cool. He had 33 and 7/8 inch arms, so almost 44 inches or 34 inches. And then his hands were 9 and 5/8.
So my quick takes on him from yesterday was 4-bag agility drill, great. Top of the list, rip drill, great. The running club I did not see. The wave drill, marginal, but no bend. All arms. So he was all arms in that hoop drill. That's the only thing that I did not like about him was the lack of bend. So according to SI, he's known as a speed rusher. He ran just a 4.72 40. 10-yard split was timed at 1.62. Now, if I look at a 1.62, I mean, he is right there in the elite range. That's a Nick Bosa. It's a Jared Verse. It's a Joey Bosa, DeMarcus Lawrence. It's a Trey Hendrickson, a Josh Allen, an Aiden Hutchinson. So he's in that great 10 split. 10 split matters more to me than a 40. Matter of fact, it was a great conversation I had yesterday again with the family of Nick Sword, talking about, guys that play fast. There's a difference between a guy that runs fast and a guy that's twitchy, right? There's a difference between a guy that runs fast and a guy that knows what they're doing. The one thing that I was asking them, because I'm trying to learn without prodding too much, right? Like, they don't owe me anything. They don't have to answer any of my questions, was where are these guys from the neck up? And you hear me talk about it often that at the NFL level, I mean, even in the later years of your college career, everyone's a gifted athlete. Everyone. Like, we're not mocking, but we're evaluating these test scores like they're bad. They're all great. All of them. I could never do any of this stuff. I was never that good in football. Baseball was different. But as far as the neck up, that's the difference at this level, because everyone has it. But if you don't know what you're doing and where to be and how to play a specific scheme or what to do on a specific play, it doesn't matter how fast you run. And I've said this about Brian Branch, and I even used that analogy yesterday. Brian Branch was one of the slower safeties in the combine. And for whatever reason, evaluators were mocking him, lower for that. But then when I watched him play and I watched the tape, I'm like, this guy knows where to be, when to be there, takes great angles, hard hitter, wrap-up tackler. What has he turned into? One of the best safeties in the league in 2 seasons. He has it from the neck up, but he's not running a sub 4.5. He ran like a 4.55. So you can run as fast as you want, and you can run yourself right out of the play because you don't know where to be, and you're taking a bad angle, and you don't know the scheme that well. Brian is so smart and so intelligent and knows what to do. You can run a little bit slower because your angle is going to get you there quicker, and your anticipation is going to get you there quicker. But if you're still waiting and reacting, right, you don't want to react because you're already behind the play. You need to anticipate. And so that's where I'm looking at these guys on the tape and I'm saying, okay, are they reacting more so, or are they anticipating? And so for guys like Princely, which I'm definitely going to watch his tape again today, some of his shortcomings may not matter a whole lot to me if his reaction or anticipation is better than his reaction. And I guess that's where I'm at. I think that Princely made my top 7 list. Matter of fact, he is number 7. He's number 7 for me. I think that he's probably a day 2, probably a late second round at this point until we see Pro Day and then dive into more tape.
Yeah, you want to know something about Brian Branch real quick? I just looked this up. He reached a top speed of 20.74 miles per hour on a 50-yard pick six
What was it?
for the Detroit Lions. He reached a top speed of 20.74.
Yeah, and how do you do that when your 40 was terrible, right? Or they say it's
Yeah,
terrible. It's because he
because
plays faster on the field than he does in a 40. Like running a 40 is not natural. These are not track athletes. Right? This is not natural to put yourself in that position and shoot off a line and run straight down the field. Nobody runs a straight line in the NFL other than a receiver that's streaking, right? It's always lateral ability, lateral agility, lateral quickness, short area burst, and then you make your cut and you plant that foot and you go. And 40 I'd rather see him do some other drills. I'd rather see him do the karaoke or something. You know what I mean? Karaoke, whatever they call that drill, where they're running sideways. I'd rather see those kind of drills where you're seeing their lateral, they're doing some lateral drills, but I'd rather see a real lateral 40, if you will, or a lateral 20 or a lateral 10. I'd rather see something like that tells me how fast can you go from point A to point B and then north to point C. So Princely was one of the fallers out of the group. I had him at number 7 for me on my list. But what they're saying here is he had an opportunity to put himself in as the top 50. And I agree with that. He's not a top 50. I have him as a end of the second round right now. Small possibility that he slips into the early third. This draft, depending on which way it goes, is going to be largely responsible for where he ends up. But overall, I was impressed, more impressed by what I saw than what I didn't see. How about David Walker? Did we talk about David Walker yet?
Oh, no, we haven't.
I thought we did. We didn't?
Unless we might have. Yeah, in the beginning we did. Yeah, we did. I thought we were going to Alu Wafami next.
You go ahead. Pick whatever you want to do.
I thought he was next.
Sure, whatever you want. Pick one.
Yeah, so OO, as I'm going to call him, the edge from UCLA. He's 6'3".
Oladejo?
Yeah. He's 6'3", 259 pounds. He had 33 3/8-inch arms and 9 3/4 hands. His prospect grade was 6.17. So they're saying he could be a good backup with the potential to develop into a starter. And his vertical was 36.5, and his broad jump was 10 foot even. He did not do the 40-yard dash. He did not do the 3-cone, the 20-yard shuttle, or the bench press.
So if you guys remember when we were watching the Reese Bowl, this is one of the guys that I marked down as someone to watch and pay attention to. I really feel that the Reese's Bowl jump started, what he did yesterday. Average maybe as far as physical gifts. What was he again? 6'3", 259. I mean, my perfect edge rusher, if I were to tell you what it would be 6'3.5" to 6'5 3/4. To me, that is a perfect balance between, well, let me back that up. You've got a pocket crushing defensive end. You've got your speed end, right? They're vaguely different. So I think on the lower end of the scale is more of your can crush, your Davenports, 6'3", 6'4". But anything above 6'4.5", 6'5", 6'6", I think that's when, you're looking at you're more of your speed ends, but both sizes are kind of irrelevant. I think that depending on what their more natural ability is, speed, vertical, broad, that's going to more define what they're able to do, especially at the playing weight. He's at 260 pounds, so he's a little bit lighter. I still think that he can be more of an edge crusher, if you will, style of an end. I was impressed. The 33 3/8-inch arms, 9 3/4-inch hands. I mean, those are great grades. 6'3", it's a little bit on the shorter end, but that doesn't mean that he still can't, crush that pocket. The vertical at 36.5, he's in the great range, which is, one tier under elite. and his broad is in the great range exactly at 120 inches, which is 5 inches short of elite. So his measurables are solid, better than average. His agility scores that we have so far are in the great range, way better than average. But it was what he did on the field that impressed me the most. Rip and curl, or rip drill. No, I'm sorry, run and club. Dude was phenomenal. Again, heavy hands, hard hitter, well placed, good timing, very fluid, sticking tight to the bags. Just overall did a great job. He had really good twitch, fast twitch, and he was a climber. So it seemed like as he was getting through the drill, he kept getting better. And especially if they ran the drill twice, he got better. So this is someone that I'm expecting to still kind of jump up. Pro Day is going to help him. You know, if they're saying that he was kind of a faller yesterday outside of the top 50, I don't know that I really ever had him there to begin with, but I think a good pro day, and this guy is going to jump right back up. But this is something that we recognized again at the Senior Bowl. Let me read something that they're saying about him. They're saying that he did everything with competitive urgency, and the power in his hands stood out, which is exactly what I saw. Oladejo, who transitioned from inside backer to the edge, recorded 4.5 sacks and 24. So that versatility there. How do we know that this guy can't transition to an outside linebacker in a 4-3 scheme? He might be able to. He may not have to be on the edge. He could be, an outside backer in a 3-4 scheme. So, or he could be an edge in a, 3-4 scheme, whatever you want to call it. So the pre-draft process for him, and I guess any other edge rusher, it's important. And I think that he helped himself in areas, but this is someone to keep your eyes on for sure. All right, who's the other guy we wanted to get to? David Walker again?
Nope. We already went through him. Thought we did him in the very beginning.
And who am I forgetting? Oh, Donovan. Ezra Cow.
Yeah, that's the one.
Donovan. So you guys remember that Donovan is somebody that early in this process, he's been consistently ranked into the second round, mocked into the second round. And I felt that this is an individual that has a real opportunity to get into the first round and become a Detroit Lion. Different position, though. I project him more as an outside linebacker. Let me pull. What'd you think of Donovan while I'm pulling this up?
Good size. He's 6'2 and a half, weighs 248 pounds. He's got 34-inch arms, super long arms, and a 9 1/4 hand. So his hands are a little smaller, but he's got looks like he's got some good reach to him. His production scores yesterday were really good in the 80th percentile, 87, 85, and 83. His vertical jump was 35 and a half. His broad jump was 9'11". His 3-cone was 6.94, and his 20-yard shuttle was 4.19. So he didn't run the 40, so I didn't see him there. But,
so this guy's he's almost a tweener for me.
Yeah.
I was hoping that he was going to come in a little bit taller, a little bit heavier. But arm length, I mean, you can't argue with 34-inch arms.
Nope.
9 1/4 inch hands. I mean, it's average in the NFL. Matter of fact, as an edge, yeah, it's a little below average, I guess, but it's not terrible. And I'm comparing him against some of the best to ever do it too. So arm length is great. Production score is great. Athleticism score was great. Overall, he will become a starter within 2 years, according to the NFL. I never believe what they say because they're always wrong. But at 6'2 and a half, he's a little bit on the shorter end. He could project as an outside linebacker. I think right now they're trying to slot him to the Packers at the end of the first round. Again, I had him as a first round grade to the Lions at 28 already before the combine. And now what they're saying here is Ezra Cow ACC Defensive Player of the Year in 2024, produced the fastest finish in the 3-cone drill and the short shuttle among participating defensive linemen on Thursday. Now, his relative score, per the RAS score, his agility work ranked him in the 95th percentile. Relative to his size among edge rushers, he also added a 35.5-inch vertical leap while covering a 9.11 in the broad jump, giving him an unofficial RAS of 8.25. Now, the athletic profile isn't complete because he didn't run the 40. Jeremiah had him as his 30th ranked prospect currently, and they're saying that he plays a position of need possibly for Green Bay. I would not want to see this guy in Green Bay, but you want to talk about production tape, testing, checking all the boxes of a first-round pick. He produced 16.5 sacks and 61 pressures in 2024. That's hella production. But at 6'2", under 250, he's a little bit light. So I absolutely love this guy's ability on the field. I'm a little shy of his size right now, but as an outside linebacker, size is fine if that's where he's going to project and actually play. Now his wingspan, get this. I'm sure it's a 1.1. It's got to be. So 82.75 divided by 74.5. Oh, he's a 111. This is the biggest wingspan I've seen yet for an ape score. A 111. That is insane.
Wow.
Insane. The only players that have ever had anything like that, Daniil Hunter. He's the only one. And Cameron Jordan. Let me back up. Eyes are bugging. Myles Garrett and Cameron Jordan are the only two players in the last, 15, 20 years that as far as the best edge to play the game, have had an ape score of that high. So he's a little short, right, at 6'2.5". On my scale, for my measurables, that would put him as average. Right smack dab in the middle is average. So it's not bad. It's just average. And he's going to score high on my scoring sheet. So you got to go back to the tape on him. Let's do a couple of linebackers and then let's wrap it up.
All right. So linebackers. I'm going to tell you what right now. The third ranked one is probably who my favorite one to watch yesterday was, and that was Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. He was 6'3", 235 pounds, had 32.5-inch arms and 10.5-inch hands, big hands. I thought he was one of the only players yesterday that ran the 40 and did the drills with enthusiasm, like, screaming. And I think it was him was the one that was like, come on, let's go. And I loved it. I liked seeing a little bit of personality out there, and he seemed to do pretty well at the drills yesterday. He ran a 4.52 in the 40-yard dash, which wasn't the fastest, but wasn't the slowest. Had a 1.53 in the 10-yard split and a broad jump of 10'7".
Obviously he was blazing fast. He just looked extremely smooth yesterday. He's definitely a rare athlete.
And you got to remember, Mr. Brad Holmes loves him some Alabama players. And he is on the lookout for a linebacker. He is.
Yeah, but Campbell's projected top 15 right now.
Yeah, I know.
So, again, it's one of those things where it's a deeper defensive tackle draft, deeper defensive end draft. Do you want to trade multiple picks to move up to grab a linebacker? Or would you rather just stay where you are, maybe back out of the first round and add an extra second round pick and solidify, double down, that defensive tackle room for the future because you're going to have to replace Reeder. Wingo's injured. Don't know the extent of Broderick Martin yet. And Ali McNeil's injured. So I think that we're going to see 2 defensive tackles taken in this draft early. And then I think that there's going to be an edge and a linebacker mixed in. It could be 4 defensive picks right off the get. And I wouldn't be surprised. But I think that you're going to have to get up to 40 to 45, 38 to 45 if you really want to grab the players that are going to make an immediate difference right away. Jihad Campbell, I would love to see him become a Detroit Lion just because, very simply, he's a unique athlete. 6'3", 32.5-inch arms. I'm not afraid of the arms. The linebacker, as far as the linebacker, the arm length it's not as important to me. It's still important, but it's not as important. As far as his wingspan, though, let's see where that ranks.
Yeah, Brent Lighton brings it up. When he was running his 40, especially his second one, he had a big giant smile on his face, and not too many of these guys were smiling yesterday when they were doing drills. He was.
He could feel that he was moving.
Yeah, but he was having a blast with the whole thing.
Yeah.
You could tell that all the drills and all of this was fun to him. He was having fun competing. He was having fun going through these drills. He knows this is his once in a lifetime interview, so might as well ace the damn thing.
Come on, man.
And I do expect him to be one of, if not the very first linebacker off the board, one of the first. They have him listed as the 3rd best in yesterday's workout, but that's just the workout from yesterday. You got to remember, the combine is the underwear Olympics. So you also have to watch the tape and see what they did in college and weigh in their interviews and everything else. It's not just about the combine.
Wow, I'm going to this site and it doesn't exist.
Oh.
USA Today. I've fallen prey to USA Today before, but yeah, they're supposed to have these measurements, and I don't understand why they don't. It says it doesn't even exist. Maybe they should stop using AI to code everything. Use some real people.
Bob W asks, how far do you think we can trade up if we bundle our 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks? Well, Bob W, in my opinion, I would think they would be more apt to not so much move up in the 1st, but move up into the 2nd or 3rd rounds to grab more of the meaty players in the middle of this draft. Because it sounds like that's where most of our meat of this draft is, especially the defensive players.
This is ridiculous.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it just won't. This is why I don't like doing this live like this, because I feel like I let people down that I don't have the information like right now.
Yep.
Now I'm just going to say, for all the people that do this and get paid to do it, they're not doing a good enough job. I search for the measurements and it gives me nothing. Absolutely. And I'm looking for wingspan. This is what I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking for wingspan.
Brent Lighton says, I'm not trading up for Jihad Campbell, but I would take him at 28. Linebackers fall often.
Yeah, he's
now,
probably,
if you remember,
he's probably going to be gone way before 28.
But if you remember, when we took Jack Campbell, a lot of people didn't think he was going to be there at 18 either.
Yeah, we moved. Did we move up to 18, or we already had 18? I don't remember now.
I think
was that part of a package.
Yeah, because
we had 18.
We had 18 because we went 9-8. That was our spot that year.
Okay, Jelon Walker. Here we go. No, not Jelon Walker. Jihad Campbell. So again, when I was just talking about his arm length, and this is what I don't get. They put the height, the weight, and the wing. That's it. Why are they not putting everything else? This is what I was saying earlier. I have to go to 5 freaking sites.
Yeah.
Just to get all of the information. I need my website built ASAP. Well, we'll be the only ones that actually do it right. All right, so his ape score is a 106 or a 107, so I'm not concerned about Jihad Campbell's 32.5-inch arms at all. I think he's going to be just fine. He's going to be a stud at the next level. Walker. Let's go to Walker next. Because if it's not a Bama guy, it's a Georgia boy.
Yep.
And phenomenal athletes at both schools. Now, Walker surprised me yesterday. Only 6'1", 32-inch arms. Again, arm length, whatever. 10.25-inch hands. Production athleticism scores were good. Now, I didn't get to watch these guys on field, but I think I did get to see Walker.
And they say his NFL comparison is to Nolan Smith. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so Nolan was the guy that I wanted the Lions to grab that year. I mean, it was super special. Now, I remember that season in that combine, he did not test that day. I think he was held out for injury reasons or whatever. And I'll do some comparables once I get all the numbers put together, but he's below average in size, especially as a full-time, edge defender or outside linebacker. I'm not so sure that, and he didn't test, so I don't have 40s or anything.
Nope.
So I'm going to have to watch tape on him. I don't have an answer for him right now. Matter of fact, we're going to have to come back to all the linebackers just simply because I couldn't see anybody.
Yeah. And that was the thing. So even they said on TV that everything ran over because they start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you don't see it on TV till 3 o'clock, but it goes from 1 o'clock till like 8 or 9 at night.
Yeah, well, 3 is when they start the on-field. 1 o'clock is when they do the bench and all that stuff.
Yeah, but they let people in at 1 o'clock, but they, I think the bench was at like 10 a.m. So
it was slated from like 3 to 8, and I left at 9:15.
Yeah,
and they just started the linebackers maybe 15 minutes before I left.
Yeah. Did they boot you guys out like they did last year?
No. They everyone was just kind of corralled into where I was sitting with all the parents there, and then everyone just kind of kept sliding over.
No,
they were all good.
Last year, I remember the either day 1 or day 2 things ran over like that yesterday, and at 7 or 8 o'clock, they're like, "That's it, everybody's got to go."
Oh, the one guy I did see. Let me get my other book out. Demetrius Knight. So if you guys remember, again, in one of my initial mock drafts, I was talking about Demetrius Knight and Donovan Ezrakow because they were projected, second round early, which in my opinion, that's not a reach if you're at 28. If their true value is second round early and you take them in the first round at number 28, it's not a big deal. Personally, this is what I would love to see. If the Lions move from 28 to 32, right? Or 31 or whatever, 32 would be key. Or say another way, who's at the top of the draft?
Titans at 33.
No, it's so second round draft order. Okay, so it goes. What the hell? It totally cuts off. It lists 1 through 32, and then I go to second round and it's empty. I cannot stand this stuff. All right, second round. Here we go. Cleveland, the New York Giants, Tennessee, Jacksonville. So I'm expecting like a guy like Jackson Dart or somebody else that is going to be on somebody's radar that they may want. a fifth year of control on. So if the New York Giants pass on a quarterback at number 3, and they end up with a Travis Hunter or whomever, or Cleveland, maybe they do the same thing. Maybe Tennessee does take a quarterback and Cleveland takes Abdul Carter. So maybe Cleveland would want to bounce back up into the first, or New York would want to bounce back up into the first to take a quarterback that maybe is projected in the second round, maybe has slipped in the first round a little bit. I think that someone is going to want to take Jalen Milroe in the first round at the end. So if hasn't gone early enough, which I'm not expecting, but either him or Jackson Dart or whoever throws well this week and has a good combine, and we learn a little bit more about them, someone is going to want to take a third or a fourth quarterback in the first round, is my guess. And if I were the Lions, I would be reaching out to all of the quarterback needy teams and say, look, I want to be at 33, 34, 35, 36, somewhere, 37, even with the Raiders. We want to be there. Doors open. If there's somebody you want at 28, let's do the damn thing. That gives the Lions an extra pick or 2 or 3 between this year and next year. Hopefully this year. Moving into the second round. We don't necessarily need 5th year of control right now.
Mm-mm.
If these guys are who they're supposed to be, that 3rd year they're going to be getting extended anyway, or after the 3rd year they're going to be getting extended anyway. That's where this roster is. You don't need 5th round control on all these guys anymore. So I think that would be a great opportunity for the Lions back out of the first, stay early into the second, and add an extra pick. So which teams make the most sense? Okay, Cleveland. You give us 33 and 67, you can have 28. That's probably a little bit rich, but I would love to see the Lions have 33 and 67. And then we still have pick 60. So we would go 33, 60, 67. That's a possibility. Or the Giants, they have 34 and 65. So we go 34, 60, 65. What could the Lions do? They could package 60 or 65 and 104, or I'm sorry, 103. Let me see what the Lions have here. Lions could package 60 and 101 or 60 and 133 and maybe move up into the top 40 again, or top 45. So you give us like 33, 34, 35, and then, 40, 41, 42, 43, somewhere in that range, and then 60, 61, 62, somewhere in that range. See where I'm saying? It's top 30, top 40, top 60. If we can get 3 picks inside the top 65 and still hang on to 133 and then get rid of 246, 230, 227 and move up into the 3rd again, or into the 4th, and you get 4 or 5 high quality picks out of this draft and that's it, that would make the most sense to me. I personally would even be willing to give up next year's. We got 2 3rd round picks. Get rid of them. Move up early again into this draft and do something to be able to stack and make this team what it's supposed to be for the future. Because if they stack now and you grab some of these defensive tackles and these edges and these linebackers, your defense will be set for the next 4 or 5 years. And they'll be young, so where you don't really have to worry about these big, large, looming contracts where you're not going to be able to afford them anyway. So that, to me, is the answer. Kobe Bryant. I could have sworn that Kobe Bryant, and I'm only saying that because I just seen his name pop up for some reason. Kobe Bryant. The Lions had an interview with Kobe Bryant, and I want to say this dude played for Illinois, if memory serves me correct.
What position does he play?
Corner.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm not seeing him.
He plays for Kansas now. I could have sworn that he played at Illinois.
It says Kansas, yeah.
Yeah, but I could have sworn that he played at Illinois prior to like Kansas. And it could have been another Kobe Bryant, but
Yeah, this is the one that spells it Cobee. Yeah. I heard his name yesterday and this spelling.
okay, so career history. Nope, it's always been Kansas. Never mind, forget that thought. So I thought that he was a potential someone that was on my list last year that maybe didn't enter the draft, but wishful thinking. Wishful thinking. All right, that's really it for today. I know it's kind of all over the place today.
Yep.
We will dial it in. Now I've got to compile the information. I got to shoot off to go get some MRIs. Otherwise, I would be at the combine. This draft's exciting. Over 36 guys in this draft on the defensive line that are all going to have top 3 grades, in my opinion.
Well, we just did a 3-hour podcast today about what happened yesterday. And now, in a couple of hours, we get to watch another 4 or 5 hours of it on NFL Network with corners and safeties today.
Yeah, so expect every morning we'll be talking about this stuff, but I'll be working on getting all the numbers drilled in so that hopefully we can figure out where these guys are actually going to be slotted and ranked. Just my scale, right? I'm putting my scale to the test. It's a little early. Obviously, when I do my mocks, I'm going to mock more closely to where I think that, they belong. And then I'm going to do a second one that is a mock based on my numbers. Let's have fun with it. It's not expected to be an exact science. It's not expected to be perfect yet. Nobody's is, even as perfect as they think that it is. It's not. Nobody gets these things right. And we've had some good success here, so I want to keep with it, keep having fun with it. I definitely need the mailbag to fill up so that we can do a mailbag segment this week. So fill it up, mailbag at rockdown.com. Any questions, any players, start requesting video requests for players that you want to see. And it will start doing the cut-ups because we've got less than 8 weeks or so, 9 weeks, whatever, before the draft. And that's a very limited time to do cut-ups and put some information together. So mailbag at rockdown.com. I don't care the content that you want to see. Whatever it is, just pump it. Get the mailbag full, and we'll do some segments. So final words for you today, Eric?
Yeah, the NFL just had their first tag of the season. Smith there from the Chiefs, the guard, he's getting tagged. And Monday, this upcoming Monday, 1 week from Monday, is the tampering period starts. So you're going to see lots of cuts. You're going to see lots of tags. You're going to see lots of cap casualties between now and then. If there's a tag or anything like that, you're going to hear about it. So we got lots to talk about coming up in the next week or two.
Yeah, we do. Cool, man. Brent just said he got his helmet in the mail. Brandy
Awesome.
Coffee got her helmet in the mail. I think everyone's received all their products by now.
Honolulu Brew Coffee right here.
Yeah, I'm working on some merch right now, so got some messages out. I'm hoping to get it launched here fairly soon. We're going to do a couple different things of merch. Anyway, all of the away games, Packers, Bears, Vikings, they are up on Buy Me a Coffee. If you guys are interested in going, May 1st is just the deadline for deposit. And then you'll have, June, July, August. You'll have at least another 3 months to do the other half. It's a phenomenal opportunity. These are luxury trips. They're not, they're luxury trips at an affordable rate. Let's put it that way. I've done the math. I know if I were to go on a trip like this just for one person, it'd probably cost no less than, $800 for everything that you need, buying a ticket, paying all the fees for the ticket, which we wouldn't pay. Hotel room, gas, everything, food. It's at least $800. So you're spending a few extra $100 because you're getting all of this other stuff. Luxury barbecue, catering, catered, like they were coming to us catered. And amazing box lunches with all the goodies, all the snacks, all your drinks, unlimited. You just bring your own BYOB. That's the only thing that I won't provide. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time. And the goal is to turn it into something which I spoke to Eric about yesterday. I can't mention it just now, but it's going to turn into something that's what this channel is all about. And that's about other people. So we want to bring some people with us and make this about them and about Lions fans and continue forward with creating new fans, right?
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be a great time.
Hey, man, I have to get to a Zoom meeting, so I got to go.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.